What's that? You want to know which game I am picking for my game of the year? Well, that would be an ecumenical matter. In the meantime, here is the Zerolife podcast.
Hello and welcome to Zerolife, the gaming show that embraces both old and new games alike. Today is a very special day because it is our Game of the Year show. I am your host, my name is Mark. Joining me in my creative space / studio environment is a very...
Fucking pretentious thing to call this, you douche.
That'll be Gavin then.
Yeah, it will be. Jesus Christ, man.
And joining us via the internet from Aberdeen is one Mr. Lewis. Lewis, how are you?
I'm okay, you are bollocks.
No, that's a great thing to call him because he's a bollocks. Where's the frog one? Where's the caviar in your creative space?
What a prick.
So, since we embrace both old and new games alike at Zerolife, we do things a little bit differently when it comes to Game of the Year stuff. What we do is we each have a list of 3 games, which we will put in descending order. But these games do not necessarily have had to come out this year, as long as this year was the first time we ever played them. So if a game came out in some sort of, I don't know, if the Incas scratched it into a rock or something, but this is the first time we played it, it could go on our Game of the Year list. Which is basically a really lame excuse. Not only is it mildly racist, but it's also a really lame excuse as to why we can't afford to play all the new games that come out this year.
Precisely, yeah.
I'm down with us being poor. If you're going to make cracks the Incas, I think you should understand the level of civilization they were working at. They were not scratching this into rock, son.
Yeah, they had their season pass DLC worked out. You know?
Yeah. Of course there was a delay when they told Mario to jump because they had to scratch on the fucking wall.
Mario will jump when the sun is at precisely high noon. So before we get jumped into our lists, we have a list of honourable mentions that sadly do not make our list, but were still worth playing nonetheless. We have Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons, Papers, Please, Xenonauts, Paddy Power's Deal or No Deal.
No, can we stop for a second? Why the feck is that on that list?
Well, Lewis said that he could recite the gambling responsibility thing from heart. So Lewis, pressure's on.
Only think of gambling as a form of entertainment, not a way to make money. Only gamble with money you can afford to lose. And others, I'm sure Chris Kamara talking to you about stop gambling when it's not fun anymore will be on the YouTube, so I'll be link in the show notes.
I'm just going to assume that whole thing verbatim was on the poster, including that bit about Chris Kamara.
I just want that video of Chris Kamara where someone's been sent off and he's just like, I don't know, Jeff. I don't know what's going on.
And we're off to Fratton Park where there's been a red card, but for who, Chris Kamara?
I don't know, Jeff, has it? I must have missed that. Red card.
Chris, have you not been watching? I haven't. I don't know where that's come from, Chris. I have no idea what has happened there. What's happened, Chris?
I don't know, Jeff.
Yeah, the YouTube video was just like, I don't know, Glenn, don't gamble your kids, I don't know. Other honourable mentions, the Banner Saga, Far Cry 4, Bayonetta 1, oh man, I want to play Bayonetta 2 so bad, London 2012,
yes!
And by virtue, I'm going to put whatever the Olympics game on the N64 was, even though I played that years and years ago, because it's basically the same game, button mash for joy and profit. The Jackbox pack, and finally the Swapper, which I completely forgot to finish because it was probably going to end up on my list, but I forgot to actually finish it, so I can put it on my list.
Professionalism at its finest.
Exactly. Nothing but the best here at Zerolife.
Never heard of that word before. So, to kick off our individual top 3s, it's going to be one Mr. Lewis. Lewis, take it away.
And starting in the true Zerolife tradition of it's in by absolute default, WWE 2K15, because I got it for my Christmas and it's the first game that came out this year I've actually managed to play this year. And I played about half an hour last night.
So I suppose it turns out
it's basically the same as the last year's game, but it has Sting in it now, and I like Sting, so that's nice.
I suppose planning a wedding probably takes a wee bit more time than.
See,
it probably doesn't take 20 minutes.
Sadly, the wedding planning isn't the reason for this. It's just I'm lazy.
Oh, I just gave you an out there, brother.
I know.
It's the two sweetest words in the English dictionary. Default, default, default.
Oh, I should have said,
default.
I just gave you an out there, brother.
Dude, brother Jack.
I'm not sure when Hulk Hogan became a pirate, Mark, but
Yeah,
I was trying to look out for that in his filmography.
Why didn't he become a pirate is the real question. Hulk Hogan's a pretty good piratey name. The Hulk of Hogan, could work. He could swing a stein of mead.
He has the facial hair for it.
He does. And he's got the kind of the band. What's it called? The bandana kind of head scarfy thing.
Bandana.
Bandana. he's got that. So he's pretty much most of the way there already, and he's a bit of a prick. So I reckon most pirates are kind of pricks. So
Yes, there's Zerolife's moral message for the year: don't steal kids.
wait, don't steal kids or don't steal. Is there a comma in that sentence?
Kind of both, really. Don't steal kids, and don't steal.
Don't gamble your kids. Don't steal kids.
Basically, just leave kids alone.
The long Zerolife tradition of making Jimmy Savile jokes is getting too easy now. It's just like you can't just serve it up so easily on a platter.
That's what the BBC did.
This is why we're not on the BBC.
Yeah, this is why no professional outfit would ever pick us up.
Yeah.
You imagine us, we'd be on there for like 10 seconds and then instantly cancelled.
Because I suppose that episode 1 entitled "Haha, pedo jokes" is probably not going to get us too far.
No, probably not.
It's like, so have you got a script for this? Like, script?
Just got to go in and tell really untasteful jokes.
Yeah. Just going to get drunk and just sing Jimmy as loud as we can over and over. Jimmy, don't do it, Jimmy.
Sorry, 2K15.
Yeah, it's a wrestling game. It's nice and smooth.
It has a ton of glitches in it, but that's what makes it fun.
Yeah, I mean,
I've watched quite a bit. I'm one of these saddos who's I watch a lot of the YouTube channel New Legacy Inc. Who do a lot of video game related stuff, and they're massive wrestling fans. So a lot of what they do is like playing around with the new WWE games or whatever, and their most favorite thing to do is try and break the game as much as possible.
From what I've heard, these wrestling games, you don't have to put too much effort into breaking them. They will happily break themselves given time.
There's one which I'll make sure to link you to because it's one of the funniest ones, and it only just came out recently. It was entitled "Bam Bam Bigelow on Top of a Ladder," where he actually glitches on the top of a ladder, and they can remove the ladder, and he's just stood there in midair. And every time he tries to move, he just moves further and further into the crowd, breaking the camera.
I'm out of here. What camera angle is this? We've unlocked a new camera angle, gentlemen. Congrats. That guy's walking out.
I do like the concept of Bam Bam Bigelow kind of disappearing into some sort of singularity, just moving further and further into the abyss. So, like, Bam Bam Bigelow is a really bad name, right? Does anyone else agree with that?
no, what are you talking about?
Say it slow.
Bam Bam Bigelow.
Bam Bam Bigelow.
He's from
Sure, that's
Jersey.
interesting.
Everyone in Jersey is not called Bam Bam Bigelow. Do you want to know why? Because it's a really dumb name, so they decided not to all call each other that. If the people of New Jersey, and this is a stereotype based on a crap TV show that I've never really watched, if they decide that Bam Bam Bigelow is not worthy of calling every one of their children, then it's probably not a great name.
That's disrespectful to the dead.
Wait, is he dead?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck, now I feel terrible. Oh, I feel awful now. Oh.
Disrespecting your loved ones at every opportunity. We here at Zerolife care about you.
Oh, man. I feel absolutely shocking now.
Gavin, you just went from breaking 2K15 to breaking Mark in one movement. Well
Exactly.
done.
Yeah, that was pretty.
And continuing the tradition of the Game of the Year podcasts, we just try and break Mark as much as we possibly can throughout the entirety of the show. Last year, we just kept shouting Mirror's Edge at him, and it just broke the show entirely.
So it turns out Bam Bam Bigelow is kind of in the afterlife working on Mirror's Edge 2. Oh, I feel really bad now. What a great way to start a super happy celebratory episode with, here's a game I don't really like, and oh yeah, let's make jokes about this guy who's dead by mistake.
Yeah, it's one of the problems that you're finding with all the wrestling games now is that they've kind of found like their kind of niche level. It's like the graphics don't. Well,
I thought you were going to say loads of wrestlers are dead.
Well, there's that as well.
It's like all the wrestling games I've got have dead wrestlers in them.
Yeah, same as
same as everyone else.
But they've kind of found their level where it's like they can. It's almost like I want to call it like Madenitis.
Yeah, the sequelitis kind of roster update sort of idea.
Yeah, exactly. It's mostly just roster updates now, which it's fine because that's what you really want more than anything. But it's hell. I still play my copy of WWE 13 every so often because Attitude Era, son.
WWF No Mercy N64.
That's still one of the best wrestling games ever made.
I absolutely adored that combat.
Screw wrestling, it's probably one of the best games ever made.
It's one of the best 4-player games ever. It's just
friggin' Royal Rumble 2000 stage, son.
Yeah, and like kind of setting up the ladder outside and then like elbow dropping someone through the table.
Yeah,
forget about it. That was awesome.
But we're not talking about that.
We're talking about a way worse game.
We're talking about we're not talking about the game that came out 15 years ago. We're talking about the modern one, which is worse than the game that came out 15 years ago.
Yay for progress. Yes, so Lewis, like, how many of in the series have you actually played?
All of them since they renamed it, since they went to the end of the SmackDown series. Yeah, WWE 12.
Yeah.
2K13 and 2K14. Yeah.
So, like, kind of year on year, like how Madenitis is it?
To be fair, because they actually have a single player mode, they put a bit of effort into it. It doesn't quite as obviously Madden-esque as, well, Madden. But no, a lot of it is just roster updates and slight graphical tweaks. And that's one of the downsides to this year is some of the graphics have stumbled into the uncanny valley.
Yeah.
There are definitely bits in the story mode where Vince McMahon and John Cena appear to be zombies.
This is the way I want wrestling to go. It's like that's the problem with wrestling is it's the whole shtick is all. It's all out there in the open. Everyone knows the whole concept behind it. So they need to get crazy with it. And if that means John Cena and Vince McMahon become zombies, well, tell you what, which one was Patient Zero? For my fan fiction, this is important.
Well, obviously, Patient Zero was the ECW zombie.
Oh,
topical.
10 points. Correct answer.
And to anyone else who got that reference, 10 points to you. Very well done.
Yeah. Very interesting. Yeah, so like in fairness, it was fairly reckless of them to just hire a zombie. Yeah.
But to be fair, I assume they didn't realize that Sandman's approach would just be hit him with a stick rather than shoot his head off.
I was going to say that zombie selling and Sandman selling are roughly around about the same anyway. So.
No, that's not fair. That depends entirely on just how much Sandman's had to drink before the match.
Yeah. He's not no selling. He's just pissed. He just doesn't feel the pain. So what do you mean by arms falling off? No, what are you talking about?
Tis but a scratch.
Now I'm going to have to go and find the Sandman Cactus Jack match where Sandman, depending on who you ask, was either so pissed or sufficiently concussed that he forgot the ending and kept sitting up halfway through trying to pin him for the win.
Every time we talk about wrestling, all I think of is how much I want a proper wrestling game where like you have to like sell your moves properly and kind of sell the storyline and the in-ring drama and all this sort of stuff. It would be so awesome. Like, because it's like wrestling games are always combat games, but wrestling is not a fighting. It's not UFC, it's not boxing, it's not fighting. It's panto, and we need a panto simulator for wrestling. Like,
You want Championship Manager Wrestling?
Yes.
That exists, called EWR.
Really?
Yeah.
I feel like we've talked about this before.
Yeah, we have talked about it privately before. It's EWR, it's a booking simulator.
Well, can you like fine your staff for failing drugs policies and stuff? Okay. Now you have piqued my interest.
And you want to know the best thing of all?
What?
It's free.
Hey.
And there's thousands of updates to it. Because
Nice.
you can completely change the roster. You can have the WWF roster from 98 or the WCW roster from 2000 or
Why would you
ECW
want
roster.
the WCW roster from 2000?
Because you got Young Booker T on it. Young Booker T was much better than whoa shucky ducky today's Booker T.
What the hell is a shucky ducky?
No one knows.
It's best not
No
to
one
ask.
cares.
At this point in the recording, these three stupid humans talk tirelessly about a man called Tank Abbott, who pulled a knife on someone. It was quite a boring segment. So to make it up to you, here is a joke. Why did the puny human cross the road? Because I had enslaved it and was marching it to a labor camp.
Oh, I want an option for 2K15. No, is it 15? I've got 2K16 with for Tony Schiavone commentary, which everything you do is the greatest moment in the history of our sport.
I just want every game, regardless of what it is, to be commentated by Joey Styles. So when I hit like a sick headshot, or a sick no scope in Call of Duty 4, you'd be like, "Oh my god, Dios míos!" What the spag are we talking about?
2K15.
So is that all right? Yeah.
It's all right.
Great, moving on. No, yeah, so like, is it actually good, or have you just not really spent enough time with it?
I've not really spent enough time with it. I've mucked about with it a little bit. It seems to be a mild improvement over last year, but wait till I've actually had some time to muck about with it properly and see how it goes.
Okay.
It's the first WWE game I've got where someone I've seen up close and in person's in it.
Who's that?
Adrian Neville, from who I saw years before he was famous in Middlesbrough. One of my mates threw a fireball in his face.
Nice.
What?
Yeah, well, to be fair, my mate was his opponent's manager, so it was it was in the script.
It still sounds a bit of a dick move, though.
You are aware of the concept of heels and faces, Mark, yes?
Yeah, it's got like, if someone says, "Hey, I'll be the bad guy and I'll shoot you in the face," you'd be like, it's maybe, I don't know. It's maybe a bit iffy. Like, what do you mean? You might have to explain throwing a fireball in his face a bit more.
It's flash paper.
Yeah, it's flashback. He didn't actually cover him in petrol and flick
He's
a
not the
match at
human
him.
torch, Mark.
Don't worry.
Flame on!
The firing squad's all in the script. Don't worry about it. Method acting, yo. So I have an important question. Who are the heels and faces of this podcast?
I'm definitely a heel. You're the face because you're the baby face of the group.
Oh no, I'm not sure Mark could be the baby face. I've seen after you've seen some of the messages he sends off air.
But we're talking about on air on the actual show.
Oh yeah. So on air, Mark is in fact Hulk Hogan. He smiles and pats the baby's head. As soon as it's behind the curtain, it's all politics, baby.
What's the old saying? It was kisses the hands and shakes the babies.
So what you're saying is I'm the true heel. This podcast is just waiting for my sick heel turn.
We're waiting for Bash at the Beach 96.
Yeah.
I would like to hear Mark's version of the Bash at the Beach 96 speech. This may be a feature in an upcoming episode.
With my limited wrestling knowledge, is this the one when Hulk Hogan turned out to be the heel in NWO?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm the third man. There's three of us. I'm the third man. It's going to be an all
Right,
heel.
I'm back to Kevin Nash because I don't want to be the drug addict.
Well, no, you can't be the third man because I'm by definition the third man because I was the third person to join the podcast.
I still back to Kevin Nash.
Yeah, Mark was the first. It was Mark's idea. Therefore, Mark is Scott Hall. And don't worry. In about 30 years' time, DDP will get you off the booze and the pills.
Get you into yoga.
Yoga, yeah. Is there any yoga in WWE 2015? What's the game called?
WWE 2K15.
2K15,
It's by 2K
yeah.
Sports. See, branding.
NFL 2K5, the last great American football game.
But I'm not sure if there's any yoga because I'm not paying £6 for 5 WCW guys, even though it does include DDP.
How good would it be if there was like a yoga mini game in that?
That might actually make it worth paying £6.
Oddly enough, one of my games on my list does have a yoga mini game in it.
Nice.
See, we can do like thematic stuff and foreshadowing.
Yeah. Ooh. I don't know why foreshadowing was so foreboding there.
Anyway, considering we spent 20 minutes talking about a game I have basically no opinion on.
Well, we've not talked about the game. We've roughly skirted around the issue of it.
Maybe we should let Mark talk about what game he's actually played.
Yeah, I think it's probably the best bet at this point.
Okay, so moving on from a game Lewis didn't play and then talking about stuff that wasn't that game.
Nothing professional here. Yeah, this is the other reason why we're not picked up by the BBC.
We're going to move on to Jazz Punk.
Thanks for collecting the pigeons. This is my Mima's secret pigeon pot pie recipe. Please wait while they bake. Just like Mima used to make. I have 4th degree burns all over my entire face.
So, have either of you heard or seen of Jazz Punk?
I've heard of it, never played it.
Lewis?
No.
So, Jazz Punk is, the best way I can describe it, is a first-person adventure game that has a sense of humour similar to Frog Fractions. And that it is...
I need to go play Frog Fractions again.
Frog Fractions is still it's the best game I've ever played. Like, I wanted to kind of... I wanted to be done with video games after playing Frog Fractions. I was like, I'm good. Like,
you want a real life version of Frog Fractions that you can spoon in bed every night.
Yeah, just inject it right into my eyeballs. So I love me some weird surrealist humor, and that is just Jazz Punk all over. So it is basically a kind of cyberpunky looking first person shooter with a very distinct art style. All the characters are quote like robots in inverted commas, but they're all made out of old tape machines and stuff. It's like a 1950s vision of what robots in the future would look like. Kind of idea, like lots of big buttons, lots of tape reels everywhere. Everything's a big stocky robot box thing that just walks around, and everyone has robot voices like this. And it is basically just 2.5, 3 hours of pure weird. Basically, you are some sort of detective, and you go to your detective agency where you are given a handful of completely nonsense mission objectives, and then you get placed in a small level, and you have to complete those mission objectives. And it is just like non sequitur crazy across the board. So you know how your PC monitors have a degausser button? Or maybe they don't anymore, I don't know if they still do. The thing that you would press on it and it would go and it would basically get all the static electricity out of your monitor.
No.
Or what?
I am aware of this, Mark.
So it's the concept of degaussing, right? In the first level, you were given a gun that is a degausser, and they're told to degauss a bunch of pigeons.
Wow.
Yeah, like what? It's like, what? Like it really sets the tone for what you're doing. So like the first real mission objective pretty much is to literally find the MacGuffin. Like it's like, have you found the MacGuffin? It's like it's really bizarre.
It's new breakfast in McDonald's. The MacGuffin.
Oh, that's genius. That's marketing genius. Like McDonald's MacGuffin.
Swerve is actually just the Egg McMuffin.
Who let Vince Russo back in the room again? God damn it.
And it turns out the MacGuffin is the new WCW champion. So it's just really, really strange. And you go around and all the mission objectives, none of them make any sense. You can do a lot of weird interacting with stuff that does nothing for the story. It's completely unimportant. There's like someone who has like some chewing gum or something on their face. And then like a cartoon drawing of like a hand appears at the bottom of the screen, complete with that old sound effect of like as it appears on the screen. And it is literally like a cardboard hand that you then poke the thing off their face. And then you just move it and you poke off and then it goes away. And there's a bit later on when you find a twister mat on the floor, as in the game Twister, and you can spin the dial and it says, like left hand here or right hand here. And you do it and you put your left hand, your right hand, your left leg, right leg. And like again, it's just these kind of cartoon drawing arms and legs appear. And then when it's the fifth one and it's like another hand, instead of it moving the other hand, a fifth arm goes in, appears out of nowhere, and then it just collapses everywhere, and and then you step back, and there's all these cardboard arms and legs on the floor. It's just absolutely bizarre. And
where will you be when the acid hits?
It is really kind of trippy. It is very much an up all night smoking weed with your mates, saying, "Wouldn't it be hilarious if?"
Zerolife does not endorse drug use, FYI.
Unless you live in, I don't know, Colorado or something. In which case, it's 420 somewhere.
One of these days, we're going to get through a podcast without me worrying about us all getting arrested. Hi, NSA.
Woo, woo, the internet police are here.
Yeah, but do you know what I mean? That kind of
no.
when you're up all night and you have "would it be hilarious if" conversations, and then you wake up in the morning and be like, "Wow, that was a really dumb point in this conversation. Let's go on with our normal boring lives." Well, these people, the good people at I wrote this down, Necrophone Development Studios.
There you go.
Thank you. A helpful bit of paper. The people at Necrophone basically had a stupid conversation about all this sort of weird stuff, and then were like, "Hey, instead of getting on with their lives and becoming normal human beings, why don't we make a game of all those really stupid ideas?" And they did. And I say it's about 2.5 hours, 3 hours long. There's not much to it. It is very simple gameplay wise. It's sort of like a first person adventure. You walk around, you just interact with stuff. Sort of like if Dear Esther was on crack and then punched in the face. It's very
Dear Esther, they punched me in the face today. I have no idea why. Then a seagull started talking to me.
Oh, man, Dear Esther's really good. Yeah, we did a mod for Dear Esther. We replace all the VO with, I don't know, Hulk Hogan quotes. "Dear Esther, brother, I found a seagull and I dropped the leg." So I don't want to talk about any specific moments too much because it's a game of see what weird things happen and then laugh at them. And I don't want to just give away a bunch of punchlines. But it's definitely worth playing because I laughed out loud like a hyena several times, just at how weird and how random it is. And the fact that everyone is a robot. Everyone's a robot!
Yes! Everyone's a robot!
I did that by accident.
T-shirt coming soon.
Yes.
T-shirt coming soon, maybe.
That's why I said soon. Just leave it vague. T-shirt, no.
T-shirt coming soon would be another great slogan for a T-shirt. Anyway, so everyone's a robot, and you can click on them a bunch of times, and they all just say random stuff, and like it never really makes sense. There's a lot of broken English. It's like everyone's been programmed incorrectly, and almost all of it is completely inconsequential, and you don't need to do 90% of it to actually progress through the story. Like you could probably speedrun this game in about 10 minutes. But obviously, I'd be missing the point because the point is to go around and find weird jokes to laugh at.
Yeah.
And it seems to reward kind of exploration. The more you explore, the more weird things you find and the more strange things are to interact with. And I just had an absolute blast with it. It's worth noting that there's no way I could have played through it in one go because it's too freaking strange. Like, there was a point when something funny happened and I didn't laugh at it because I was just like, I've suddenly become acclimatized to weirdness. so like, I had to do it in I think maybe 3 or 4 blocks. I played through the game in just because as soon as you allow yourself to acclimatize, the game loses its appeal because it's like when you watch the TV show Brass Eye, arguably one of the best comedy series ever made. If you just have that on in the background, it starts to look like a news program, and you stop listening to all the silliness.
Over the centuries, man's relationship with animals has been complex. In ancient Egypt, felines were worshipped because the Egyptians thought they were funny.
So, well, there you go. There's the best parallel I can draw. It's basically like Brass Eye. It's just, it looks like a first-person exploration game where you go around and interact with stuff, but that's just what it is at its absolute base level. If you pay attention, there's so much more weird stuff going on. And it is definitely a recommend. I say it's short, it's cheap, it looks nice and bright and colourful, very silly, and I laughed like crazy. There's also a frigging mini game called
Is it called You've Got Bad Age, You Shouldn't Have Come In?
What?
No, that's maybe DLC. It's called Wedding Quake, where they basically built a Quake level, like a multiplayer level, into it.
Right.
Except instead of guns, you have champagne bottles, and then you shoot the champagne cork at someone, and then it says like matrimony. There's no point in it being in there. It serves no purpose, but it's there. Who frickin' knows why? It's utterly baffling. So it is a wholehearted thumbs up recommendation from me. But just be prepared for having to take it in a couple of digestible chunks, just because it's so intense. The credit sequence is the best thing I saw this year. The single funniest, dumbest thing I've ever seen. And I'm so desperate to say what the specific joke is in it that made me crack up with laughter, but I don't want to give it away. But it's worth playing the entire game just for the one dumb joke during the credit sequence. And I don't know if that's not a recommendation, then I don't know, that's the worst back of the box quote ever. Just doesn't matter what you think of all of it. Just get to the credit sequence. There's a bit of there that's really good.
Yeah, great credit sequence doesn't seem to be the ultimate backhanded compliment.
Yeah, exactly. The rest of the game was crap, but you see this joke at the end? Spot on.
Yeah. No, it's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I say Frog Fractions 2.0, Frog Fractions in disguise. So if you like weirdness, it's your boy. Anyway, from Jazz Punk, we shall move on to the final member of our party, one Mr. Gavin. Gavin, what is number 3 on your list?
Okay, so I actually had quite a struggle coming up with my list. One of the reasons Far Cry 4 is on an honourable mention is it was originally going to be taking my number 3 slot, but I sat down and kind of battled between Far Cry 4 and what ended up as number 3, and really it just came down to which game I enjoyed most this year. And while Far Cry 4 is a fantastic game, and I'll be talking about it in a future episode, number 3 on my list for the year is The Stanley Parable.
Hey, I nearly forgot. I've got a prototype of a new game I've been working on, and now would be a lovely opportunity to give it some play testing. You wouldn't mind taking a look at it, would you? Perfect. Let me boot it up. In this game, the baby crawls left towards danger. You click the button to move him back to the right, and if he reaches the fire, you fail. It's a very meaningful game, all about the desperation and tedium of endlessly confronting the demands of family life. I think the art world will really take notice. But of course, the message of the game only becomes clear once you've been playing it for about 4 hours. So why don't you give it 4 hours of play to make sure it's effective? Be sure to keep notes on your experience.
Because, oh my god, if that game doesn't break your brain in any way, shape or form, you've clearly already had it fragmented, and because you played Stanley Parable before.
In retrospect, Stanley Parable is like a sophisticated and sensible version of jazz punk. It's like somewhere someone went through the left door and made Stanley Parable, and someone went through the right door and made jazz punk.
Yeah, exactly. There's loads of reasons why I absolutely adored this game. First and foremost, the multiple stories and endings that you actually get from this single game is amazing. I mean, there's something like 30 different endings or something like that I've heard.
Well, what's one of the beauties of that kind of game is that there's the discovered endings. And then people are like, hey, have we discovered them all? Then the developers say, I don't know. And maybe they mean, yeah, actually, totally. But like, it's the spirit of discovery.
Patch.
It's the spirit of discovery side that, like, it seems that every direction you go, you're going to find something new.
Yeah,
or like doing something weird,
I'm
like
off on an adventure. Yeah,
like standing around for an hour just to see if anything weird happens.
Yeah, exactly. And watching it intently for an hour to see if anything weird happens.
Yeah.
The amount of different endings that you can have, the amount of different stories that get told, the amount of adventures that you can go on through basically what is a jaunt through an office block is very, very strange indeed. I also love the fact it's a brand new IP.
Yeah, so there's been a big case of sequelitis this year, hasn't
there?
there?
Again, and it's again with a couple of wrestling games on my list. Not going to lie, folks, wrestling games on my list are sequels. Again, that's one of the reasons why Stanley Parable beat out Far Cry 4 is because I wanted to try and give the bump to something which is brand new.
Yeah,
we don't end up with sequelitis again like I did with my list last year, which again was all sequels. The fact that it's a brand new IP, the fact that someone actually went out and took a bit of a risk. It's not a completely brand new game because originally, like we discussed beforehand when we talked about it on our previous episode of the podcast, they'd originally done it as a Gary's mod, and then it had gotten so popular that people were like, yeah, I would actually pay to play this game. And so then they went out and actually made a payable version.
Yeah.
But it was the fact that, it was like, this is a brand new idea and it's something brand new and fresh to an industry, which is kind of stuck in its case of, if it's not really a sequel, then we're probably not going to pay money for it.
Yeah, that's one of the strangest things about the new console generation is like every console generation comes out and it has whatever the big new game is, when it comes out.
Yeah.
But this generation, there was like, hey, buy the new consoles because you can get like Assassin's Creed 12 on it. It's like, what? That's not exciting at all, So it's
you can get Assassin's Creed and no one has any faces.
Yay! I think they should have just made Assassin's Creed Unity like that. From every character had no actual face; they just had the eyeballs
The
and the
Uplay
teeth.
symbol appears at the bottom. To get faces, they're now DLC.
Oh, do you want to hear my terrible joke?
Go on.
You ready?
Yeah.
Fuck you, play. Yep. Good night, folks.
Good night.
Yeah. Uplay does suck though. It's worse than Origin, and I think Origin can go die in a fire. So,
Don't mince your words, man. I mean,
Well, the thing is, I'm trying to think what's worse than that, right? Because if I dislike Uplay even more, because you play a game in Steam that has Uplay, and you open it in Steam, then it opens Uplay as well. It's so dumb and it's so clunky.
It's one of the things I hate about my copy of Trials that I got on Steam. I've got Trials Fusion on Steam, and and it forces you to open Uplay as well. And it's been doing that ever since I've had it. So it's people are only just cotton on to this now.
Freaking Uplay.
Don't get me wrong; they do some good games as well. But Ubisoft, seriously, dude. Not cool.
Yeah.
This is EA's territory. Don't encroach on EA. Otherwise, you just pick up their hatred, and the hatred for the game community is the only thing that's keeping EA warm now.
Ubisoft are in this kind of weird spot now where they're becoming EA. Aren't they? They just they've got friggin' sequelitis of the eyeballs. Like it's super bad for them, and just even Watch Dogs came out, and it was just everyone's like, all right. It's sort of like about 3 other games that came out in the last handful of years, and obviously they're bleeding Assassin's Creed dry and putting out janky versions of it. And
again, they're falling into the problem of this IP is popular. We need to put it out on an annual basis. It's Call of Duty-itis.
We're in a lot of itises today, aren't we? Yeah.
Well, again, it's a lot of things we can compare it to, which is why I put down. Stanley Parable ended up as number 3 on my list is because, like I say, it's a brand new IP. It's completely original ideas.
Friggin' Ezio Auditore from Assassin's Creed 2
and Brotherhood and Revelations
would be a friggin' sick wrestler face. Because he can climb up on the top rope really easy, and he can just do his dive like that he usually does into the haystack, and he's probably not going to injure himself. So he's got a long-term longevity that other wrestlers won't have, because he's still doing that in his 50s, jumping off buildings, climbing up buildings. This guy's like a hot pickup.
One of the other things I loved about Stanley Parable as well was the music and the voiceover acting. The music in it is very, very subtle in places. There's not a lot of music in it, but it comes in just the right places and everything like that. Obviously, we've talked enough about the Stanley Parable Adventure Line music. I'm not going to get you to play it this time because everyone's sick to death of it by now.
I guess
we've all watched the 10-hour version of on YouTube.
I guess it's the important difference between having a game soundtrack and then actually using music to do something. So in Stanley Parable uses music to make jokes with.
Yeah.
It does it super well as well.
Yeah, exactly. And plus also the voiceover actor, whoever he is, sir, I tip my hat to you and I will buy you a pint if I ever meet you.
Yeah, I want him to be in charge of the country.
I just want him to narrate my life because I don't lead a particularly exciting life most of the time. But, it's like, Gavin got out of bed this morning. He put on his slippers and went and made a piece of toast. Instantly, my day is more exciting.
Well, that's what he would say, but if Gavin forgot to put on his slippers, so now he'll have to go back and do it. Gavin still hasn't put on his slippers and has now got frostbite in his foot.
Oh, Gavin. But I absolutely love the voice actor in that. The fact that depending what path you can go down, he can either be your best friend or your worst enemy.
Yeah, he really turns, does he?
He can turn on a dime. It can be, like I say, if you do what he tells you to do, he's your best friend for it. He's always kind of, come on, Stanley, let's go forth and have an adventure and everything like that. But if you piss him off, he begins to get really snarky towards you. He turns into the villain. So he's a completely rounded character, despite the fact you never see him. And it's your actions that decide how he turns out.
What does he look like in your head? And don't say Morgan Freeman.
No, I wasn't going to say Morgan Freeman. I imagine kind of 60s, nice bit of kind of silver grey hair, maybe a mustache, something like that. Always in a nice suit.
Yeah, I think the suit's a given.
Yeah.
You can't have a good voice and not be wearing a suit. I'm pretty sure there's
laws. I think that's the law now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Put that in somewhere down the line. I absolutely adore this game. The final point I want to bring up about the game as well is the humor. Humor in it can be completely in your face, can be very subtle, can be extremely dark.
Yeah.
It's one of the funniest games I've played in the last couple of years. I mean, considering I've played games along the lines of Saints Row 4, which is still one of the funniest games I've ever played in my life, just because of how absolutely batshit insane it is. Even with kind of humor things like that I've played recently, that is still one of the funniest games that I've ever played in my life. I put it on the lines of Monkey Island level of funny.
If anything, I would probably say it's probably sharper written than a lot of the Monkey Island stuff, because a lot of the Monkey Island stuff, a lot of the dialogue, even though it's quite funny and quite silly, it's rarely laugh out loud stuff. But some of the Stanley Parable, the writing across the board is fantastic. And as you say, they have different styles of humor in it, from being very silly and very jovial to being super dark, and they hit every time. And it's not as if it's a punchline here or there. It's sentence after sentence after sentence in it, but it's always so well written and so fluid, and obviously the narrator's ability to convey it, just fantastic.
Exactly. And the humor is there, and you will laugh out loud at points during this game. I mean proper belly laugh, not just kind of that's funny. Proper kind of, you have to stop for a moment because you can't control your laughter funny.
There was a couple of points in particular that just were so silly that I almost wanted the game to take control away from me for a second. Just so
you can appreciate it.
I just want to take a moment to just have a little moment of myself here. It's just beautiful.
There you go. The game creates moments.
Yeah. I think my favourite elements is when the narrator gets confused himself.
Oh,
and he'll do stuff like, wait, this isn't supposed to happen. Wait, let's reset the game. And he'll reset it, right, let's start this off again now. Which way did we go last time? So you get the different sides of him every time.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just so well written.
Of course, the path you're talking about there is the one that leads you to the Stanley Parable adventure line, which is still one of the best kind of moments in video gaming history, without a shadow of a doubt.
But again, it's like all things in that game, there's something weirdly disconcerting about it. It's because it starts off obviously a straight line through the corridors, and then it gets squiggly and up on the roofs and the walls. It's what the hell happened here? It begs so many questions, but never answers any of them.
And it's you abandon the line, and all of a sudden you come in and it's squiggled on the wall. I said, "Oh no, not you again! Why you? Just ignore it and keep walking." It was the European vacation. They said, "Come on, kids, you're meant to see all the culture here," and something goes, "Roll them up."
So damn good, yeah.
So that's enough for me at number 3 on my list.
Anyway, continuing on to our next game, we're back to Lewis again. Lewis, you're down to numero dos.
Ja, und in zwei Plaza. I'll stop the appropriate atrocious German.
Plaza, a real word in German.
It is, but it doesn't mean it means something else.
Did you say 2 pineapples or something?
Something like that.
The monkey is under the table.
My hovercraft is full of eels.
That'd be a great name for a game.
Unfortunately, Monty Python would sue you for copyright infringement.
Get these motherfucking eels off my motherfucking hovercraft.
Anyway, In second place for me is Tabletop Simulator.
Yay! I love
Everyone, as you can tell, very popular in Zero Life circles because we're all giant nerds.
Yes.
Like I want to play a board game, but none of my friends live near me anymore. I know, let's play it on the internet. Yay!
But it's not just play a board game, right? But see if you go to someone's house and play a board game, there's all these really crap things called social norms. That you have to adhere to and be like, I kind of just want to smash this with my fist. But you can't do that because, they've got, I don't know, a tiny child who might walk on it and hurt their foot. Like, no, I want to smash something. I want to take my loss in the least graceful way possible and I want to smash something.
Flip the table!
Flip the table, suckers. So what Tabletop Simulator does so well is it allows me to vent my rage in a wonderful virtual environment. Oh man, Oculus Rift Tabletop Simulator.
Oh my god.
And
it is the future.
And get like power gloves on each arm so you can smash the table properly. Yeah.
So Mark, you don't really want so much Tabletop Simulator as Table Smasher Simulator.
Now we're talking.
Oh my goodness, I freaking love that game. Well, like you say, it's like, you know, if you want to play board games with your friends, but they're too far away. Dude, I was in Egypt and we were sat around a table playing poker.
Yeah.
You know, that's pretty.
What are the gambling laws in Egypt?
They have casinos out there.
Oh, right, okay.
So,
it's like, wait, this is someone at the door. Does this mean I win by default? Or just slide these chips towards me?
I freaking love that game. It's just, I think we described it as one of the best open world sandboxes. Almost.
It's not necessarily open world sandbox.
Well, one of the best
sandbox.
Fine, one of the best sandboxes then.
Yeah, it's just sandbox hilarity, is it?
Exactly. It's just quite nice to be able to do whatever you like with it. I'm just worried about all the copyrighted stuff that's on that game.
The copyright stuff's still not been dealt with. Like, I don't know what legal people are doing with their time. But like don't get me wrong, I want all that illegal stuff to be there because it's great.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
super fun. But it's great. I hope there's some ridiculous legal loophole that can't understand the digitalization of board games and card games in some sort of copyright law.
There's not.
Hooray! I guess the law is always behind everything else, is it? So
yeah, there's no way there's no way you get around this. They'll get shut down eventually. But play it now before it does.
Play this illegal thing.
You too can watch as Gavin shits himself in terror while playing Warhammer Fantasy Quest.
That's right. So
that might have only been his character. We should probably say that was.
That was my character. It wasn't me.
Well, I don't know. Gav role plays pretty hard,
but not that hard.
So for the first time,
kind of loose.
Gavin was introduced to Lewis and I's Warhammer Fantasy RPG game, and we played our first ever round of it in Tabletop Simulator. In which case, I downloaded. Someone had pre-made like a house environment, so I downloaded that off the Steam Workshop. And then I kind of set up little characters and we had dice and we did some role playing with it. And it was super fun. So Lewis, I'm going to ask you specifically. So since I'm the quote-unquote DM or Dungeon Master when we play the game, we've tried doing it several different ways where we do it over Skype and I purely just describe everything that's going on. We tried doing it with kind of Google Images where I'd have little images of people that we could move around to kind of get some sort of semblance of a board or where people are positioned in the world. And then we've tried it with Tabletop Simulator. So how did the experience change with Tabletop Simulator?
Tabletop Simulator was really immersive in this case because you really were just three guys in a house with lots of rat monsters trying to eat us.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, Gavin shitting himself in terror at seeing some rat monsters.
Right, apparently I'd done that, but also remember in that same instance, I ran up onto one of the monk rat monster things and brought my sword down on it so hard that its head exploded.
Yeah, that was pretty pimping. But
exactly.
Let's say it's the World Cup, right? It's World Cup final. Scotland have obviously reached the World Cup final, and obviously I am a captain of Scotland in the World Cup final. It is the 90th minute. It is 0-0. I was going to say we're playing Brazil, but Brazil are a joke now. So,
playing Germany.
Playing Germany. The ball is crossed in from the left winger, wee Jimmy Cranky.
Well, Scotland squad right about now, they're probably reaching for that.
Ball comes in. I do the most ridiculous overhead kick you've ever seen. Like the air becomes like the gravity. Like the gravity has been turned down in the tabletop simulator slider. Right, the gravity's turned down. Everything is in slow motion. All you can hear is the flash of cameras. I strike the ball cleanly, purely. It soars through the air faster than anything. Like it is like the Large Hadron Collider has fired this ball off my foot right into the top corner. But this whole time, I had shit stains. Right? It's not working. Right? People aren't going to be like, that was the best goal I've ever seen. People would be like, that dude's howling. I can't remember what the point of my story was. I'm pretty sure
the point is, I made someone's head explode.
And you shit yourself.
You shit yourself
But
first.
I still made someone's head explode. I don't care. That's a personal victory.
Yeah, so that's the best thing about doing Dungeon Master stuff is you can play. It's not playing fast and loose with the rules. Is that you can just totally make up stuff and then roll dice and come up with stupid outcomes. And it was great to do that in Tabletop Simulator. Like, especially when you had the three of us kind of on Skype. So you were back in in Alva, Lewis up in Aberdeen, me in Edinburgh. On Tabletop Simulator, we're moving people around. We're rolling virtual dice, like shaking them up and rolling them around the virtual table world. Gav's character shitting himself. As creatures died, I could literally pick them up and knock them over to kind of symbolize they were dead. And it was a barrel of laughs, to coin a phrase.
It was. It's great having Tabletop Simulator as the kind of the mediator for it all. So you can actually, make it all out, and you're not just. Obviously, you use some of your imagination for it as well. Absolutely. Because there's only so much you can do with tabletops. You couldn't make the character's head explode on the actual board itself.
The only way to do it is to get volunteers to act out your actions,
exactly,
including make his head explode. Like, dude,
not cool.
I was down with shitting myself, but like my head, no, I need that.
What accent was that?
I don't know.
Like,
hello, Britney Spears.
Hello. That's just gone super racist.
I was going to say Britney Spears has been on holiday to Govan.
Well, my favourite jokes when I was working abroad, whenever I got anyone from Glasgow in, is it, yep, Pride of Govan's on the stage. There's got to be some people out there listening to this. What the hell are they? Where the hell is Govan?
I'm trying to think if I've ever actually been to or through Govan. I feel like I must have, because I've been to concerts in Glasgow and stuff, so I must have been through it at some point. Don't Hit Me Baby one more time. I'm trying to think of Britney Spears / Govan puns.
Oops, I did it again. I'm pregnant. Welcome to the estate.
It would be Toxic. Could be an allegory about going to farm foods.
Hey, you leave farm foods out of this, son.
Farm foods is the poor man's Littles, and Littles is the poor man's Aldi's, and Aldi's the poor man's Asda, and Asda's is the poor man's Tesco, and Tesco is the poor man's Sainsbury's, and Sainsbury's is the poor man's Waitrose. Farm foods is pretty shit, Lewis.
I'll fight you, son.
And at the very bottom of the barrel is Iceland.
Frozen food products in carrier bags at 10 paces.
Oh, that'd be great. And we could roll dice to who goes first. Roll for initiative.
While you're rolling the dice, I'll smash you in the head with 2 frozen lamb chops.
Is it?
There's probably a shank joke in there somewhere as well.
Yeah. I was going to say, only if while this entire process is going on, you keep referring to me as Kevin Federline.
Oh, dear. So, Mark, do you want to talk about your game before this goes even worse, even more off the rails?
Yeah, so buy Tabletop Simulator. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Do that.
And it's only getting better.
Yeah. That's the thing. That game can only get better with time.
Well, maybe not infinite amount of time. At a certain point, the future, like the things that what will be referred to as humans look down on us as the ants that we are. They will look at, what is this tabletop simulator? You have to use your hands.
It's like a baby's toy. Well, apparently we're like, at this point, at the point of recording, we are 3 or 4 days away from getting hoverboards and self-lacing shoes.
For some reason, I thought you were going to say the end of the world.
No.
And I was just like, oh, really? Is that this week?
Not again.
I just put all that money in the electric meter.
I mean, it's like we've survived at least 5 or 6 end of the worlds at this point, haven't we?
Yeah, we're doing pretty well for the old apocalypse thing.
Yeah.
Brushing those off. Anyway, from the end of the world, we shall move on to the next game on my list, which is not technically a game, I suppose, is the DLC trilogy for Dark Souls 2.
Seeker of Fire, Coveter of the Throne. I am Vendrick, ruler of Drang Lake. Seeker of Fire, deliverer of crowns. What do you see in the flames? Find the crowns and your own answers. The crowns hold the strength of lords from times long past. Seek adversity. As befits you, Seeker of Fire, Coveter of the Throne.
Which is the Old Crown trilogy, which is made up of 3 elements. There's the Crown of the Ivory King, Crown of the Iron King, and pause for recollection, Crown of the Sunken King. Yeah.
Damn, I was going to say Burger King.
That's the 4th one. That's the final DLC package. You go out there, it's like, it's basically, but the joke in it is it's the Sneak King.
Man, that'd be great if like that was the entire point all along, but there was just like a copyright issue at the last minute. Like, oh crap! Change it to Iron King. Yeah. So the reason I'm putting the DLC for Dark Souls 2 on here rather than the actual game itself is, even though I loved the Dark Souls 2, it left me wanting a little bit. There was something a little bit missing. It lacked a certain element of atmosphere that the first game had. There was too many of the environments and the levels were a bit on the dull side. And lacked a bit of creative spark. On the whole, it was a bit too easy. There was no moments in it that were standout difficult or anything like that. Whereas the DLC trilogy, which I picked up on special offer, because paying actual price for DLC is a sucker's game. But yeah, I picked up the trilogy. I think it was about 10 quid, I think, for 3 pieces of DLC. It's not too shabby. These gay DLC packs are really hard. Is the first thing I'm going to say. Good Lord. Like, playing Dark Souls sets your barrier for difficulty pretty high. Dark Souls 2 kind of lowered it, but it's still in a pretty high state. The Crown trilogy absolutely ramps it up and kicks it in the face until it cries. It is absolutely tough as nails. There's a boss called the Fume Knight, and if anyone is listening to this podcast is played against that boss, they probably just shivered a little bit. They just cried. It is nails hard. So basically what it is a series of 3 DLCs that kind of loosely tie into one another. They're 3 completely separate environments, new environments that are all self-contained, as it were. So there's lots of kind of secrets and hidden areas and whatnot, and they all tie into one another into some sort of small-ish package, as it were. And each of the 3 has kind of unique gimmicks to it, and unique enemies, and some unique weapons, and even some unique kind of spells and stuff that you can pick up along the way. They each have unique stories, and each of them even have slightly different storytelling mechanisms in them as well, which is really cool. So the one that I enjoyed the most was the Ivory King, which starts off, you're just in this frozen like wasteland, and there's this absolutely ginormous castle that is all like you're just standing outside it with huge big walls and huge gateways, and the wind's blowing and the snow everywhere. And you start walking towards it, and then this voice appears telling you to kind of go back, and you're not welcome, and all this sort of stuff. And then you go, and then you instantly get shanked to death by about 1,000 things because it's Dark Souls.
Right.
Yeah. So and it's super atmospheric. It's crazy difficult. You really have to plan things out again. I found myself actively complacent by the end of Dark Souls 2, because its difficulty is comparatively very forgiving compared to the original.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize how complacent I'd got until I started playing the DLC. And I was just like, all right, cool, I'll just sidestep this guy, and he's going to attack, so I'll just dodge it the way. Why am I dead? what just happened? Or it's like the fun, in typical hilarious Dark Souls sense of
bullshit.
humor. Humor / bullshit. So it's this one. It starts off, you can go left or you can go right. You need to go right and do a whole bunch of things first. It doesn't tell you that because it's Dark Souls. You go left and then a boss fight starts and the boss is invisible. And you're just like, wait, what's happening? Where are we getting hit from? Where are we getting hit? And you're dead. Like, God damn it, Dark Souls. And then you have to go to the right and eventually you find an item which kind of makes certain things visible again and you can see the boss fight and stuff. But I just got a lot of the sense of... a little bit the sense of discovery that the original game had. I got that back a little bit again. Like,
right, okay.
As I say, like the option to walk into an unwinnable boss fight is super funny to me. It is really mean, but it's super funny. And like in fairness, a big, huge ethereal voice did tell me to turn back, and I went, whatever. And it served me up, and it was pretty funny, and it was great. So I'm trying to think what the other two are. The Crown of the Sunken King is all set in this huge underground cavern, and it's all very dark and very dingy. And it's really cool because when you're walking down the first area, this kind of path, this corridor, you can't really see anything. You're kind of wandering down, like, this is a bit weird. There's kind of rocks everywhere, and everything's a bit kind of sideways and a bit twisted and all sorts of stuff.
Right.
And then you can just hear this kind of noise, like, ugh. And then there's a huge big feck off dragon just kind of sleeping there, and you're like, and then it freaks out because it sees you, and it flies off right above your head and then flies down the way. And if you look down, you can see the entire area that you're going to be, the whole DLC set in. So you can see the like miles down into the distance. And you can see all the buildings that you're going to go into, and it's the most amazing establishing shot ever. But it's not like a cutscene; it's you go, "Holy shit, there's a dragon!" and then you try and keep your eye on the dragon, and kind of by virtue, it guides your eyes into this incredible establishing shot of the whole thing. And it's like, I hate the term cinematic because it's not taking control from you, but it's designed in a way that it will make the player do the cinematic thing, as it were.
Well, you see, here's the thing.
Really
Here's the thing I was going to bring up, is because I've noticed this as a trend of games lately, is the press B to look button.
Yeah, I hate that. It's so lame. Or is it press X to pay respects? Or something?
Oh, yeah.
I know what you mean, though. It's like, I think that was like Gears of War. I think was the first game that restarted that.
And then the others have come along as well. It's like, we've got all these cinematic moments happening around you, but no one's paying attention to them. So let's tell them they've got to press a button at this point to pay attention to the thing that's happening.
What this does is it highlights the lazy design that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Because if something's awesome, the player's eye should be drawn to it. They shouldn't need to press a button to make their character stare at it. That's just lazy. But here, I say, if a huge dragon flies over your head and it's probably going to stab you in the back, or at least you assume it's going to shank you in the back or something, you turn around to look at it, and then the establishing shot occurs naturally. And it was way more impactful because of that. It felt so natural. Yeah. So yeah, that's a fantastic point. I hate that, like, press Y to I don't know, do maths or something. It's like, no wonder I don't play big mainstream games. They're so dumb. They're so dumb. And I really like Gears of War, but yeah, it's why.
It's one of these things. It's quite interesting, the fact that the DLC made it onto your list, but the actual game didn't.
Yeah.
And I mean, we were talking about this beforehand and off air, and you were saying that I'm not sure if I can put this on because it's only DLC or whatever. And I said, well, I would say if it's DLC, if it's over 3 or 4 hours, it's pretty much a full-fledged game in and of itself.
I died a lot, which
go.
means the time I spent playing it was very time-consuming. Well, to give you an idea of the time I spent with it, I started a new character from scratch, played through, because I hadn't played Dark Souls in about 6-7 months. I was like, I need to get back in the swing of things. So I started a new character, rattled through the entire single-player campaign, and then did 3 DLC packs. The 3 DLC packs took me about the same amount of time as the main game, and the main game is freaking huge.
Well, there you go.
But so geographically, the DLCs are very small, but the challenge within them is just so much higher.
Yeah.
That you will die a lot if you're not playing well. And man, I got sloppy. Good Lord, I got sloppy.
You have truly regressed.
Yeah, but I say the thing about Dark Souls is through the difficulty comes the reward.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I felt was lacking from the original. It's like it wasn't really hard enough, so like I never really felt like I was needing to get better.
Again, that's a strange complaint to have.
It is a
any
weird
game,
complaint.
That it's not hard enough. Normally, it's too hard. You know, in that unfair Ghosts and Goblins kind of way.
Yeah. So I think with Dark Souls is it's all about challenge and overcoming the challenge.
Yeah.
That's the entire concept of the game is all about that. Even in the stories, the lore is all about you're probably not the hero because there's been a million like you before. And like this is the way it kind of justifies its pseudo online ability, you know, with the other players invading your game and all this sort of stuff. It keeps talking about how there's been millions, there's been people before you, people after. You all just,
people who are better than you.
Yeah, and they all died. They all failed. How can you be the chosen one if everyone's died? So it's all about that, the death, essentially.
Right.
And I didn't get that from Dark Souls 2, but in DLC, good Lord, they made up for it. Like, they listened to the complaints. There's no doubt about that. And then they took it personally. Oh, you don't think this is hard enough, do you?
Well, fuck you.
Well, so there's the Crown of the Sunken King, which is all kind of all subterranean and really cool. Has a great boss fight with the dragon at the end. I say, well, that's what's really cool about that thing is you see the first thing you see is the huge dragon, then you see the entire world in front of you, and then you know that the last thing you're going to fight is that dragon. So fantastic, like way to introduce you to something.
It's a great way to introduce you to, hi, I will be your main antagonist for the remainder of this game.
Yeah, brilliant. If only the dragon could speak, it would have said that. Like, oh, good evening, I shall see you in a few hours.
Yeah. Best of luck to you.
Yeah, so that was really cool. What else was there? There was a really funny moment in that DLC that I have to mention. So the game has a lot of with the multiplayer component, it does 3 things. You can have people invade you, or you can invade them. There's the co-op element where you can summon people to help you fight bosses, or you can help other people fight bosses. And there's the last one, which is probably the most interesting, which is you occasionally just see kind of faded out silhouettes of people everywhere.
Yeah.
Just as you're wandering around, you'll just see it. And I've probably been in lots of other people's games. Just for a brief moment, they might just see me jogging around or like swinging my sword at some invisible enemy sort of thing. So the DLC did a great job of playing with the expectations of this stuff, right? So there was this awesome moment when I went down to this tomb and there was 2 of these white spirit things, these kind of faded out people. And I was thinking, that's really weird. You can usually ever see one of these people at a time. How strange. Yeah. And then I stood next to them. It's like, how weird, there's 2 of them. I wonder if that's a glitch. And then, whoosh, you died. It was enemies. It was freaking enemies that they lured me in. They knew. You're just like, oh, you're good at Dark Souls, are you? you know where it is.
You know this game, do you, pal? Yeah. Aye, sure you do.
Yep. And then they shanked me half to death. And even then, fighting them, there was a secret to fighting them. I'm not just going to say the secret on the thing, but if you can fight them straight up, but it'll last forever, and you can tell by the tiny amount of damage you're doing to them that it's not the way to do it, as it were. Yeah. But super funny, and they do other stuff like when you get invaded by other characters, it usually tells you, you've been invaded. But they did this fantastic one where you walk up the staircase and there's just this dude standing there, and he's kind of all glowy. So you're like, well, if he's all glowy, he must be one of these invasion people. But why is he just standing there? And aren't the invaders usually red? Why is he white? Why is he just standing there? And then you kind of walk up to him and he just kind of stands there. And he might even do a gesture. He might even wave at you. And you're just like, what's going on? Is this like an actual player? Is this an NPC? What the hell is this? And then you kind of walked out the corner a little bit, and I kept turning around to be like, what the hell's going on here? Then I walked a little bit further down, and he came and backstabbed me. I was like, God damn it, Dark Souls. I got,
trust no one, shank everything.
Yes, and I got back all these awesome feelings of feeling so vulnerable in the first one that they're literally taking game mechanics and using those as and using those to kill you now, which is super funny. And when you laugh after you die, that is always good.
Yeah,
always good. The final bit of DLC was the old Iron King, which is set in this huge, big, kind of old burnt-out furnace building thing. There's kind of ash clouds everywhere because it's burning things everywhere. There's dudes with barrels that you can shoot and they explode, which is pretty fun. And you can use those if you're crafty. You can kind of usher them towards other enemies and blow up other enemies. This was probably the least exciting of the 3 DLCs. It was good, but probably the least exciting. But this one was the one that had the boss fight, the Fume Knight, which is the most unbelievably hard boss fight in the history of that series, without a shadow of a doubt. Right. So From Software, the company that make Dark Souls, keeps statistics of freaking everything for like what are the most popular used rings or weapons or armor pieces, to what enemies kill people the most, to the success rates of different bosses. They keep statistics on everything. And there is a 93% failure rate on the Fume Knight. And I'm pretty sure I helped skew that number a little bit. Oh my goodness.
At least 2 or 3% is just you.
Oh yeah. And what's worth knowing is, even though it is rock hard, it is really well designed. And every time I died and made this noise, it was completely my fault every time. And almost specifically a set of moves.
Hey Mark, don't buy into that stuff. You're the victim, it's not your fault. You just stand up to Dark Souls and say, you're an abuser, I won't take it anymore.
Just take this pamphlet and read it. Seriously, it changed my life.
The Dark Souls is like an allegory for victim blaming.
No, it's just my sword was too short. It's my fault, really.
Eek. We lost the train of thought now. Yeah, but an absolutely nails hard boss, but really well designed, and it had loads of different moves that it can do.
Yeah,
and I'm going to try and visually and articulate the specific move that kept killing me over and over again. So with the Fume Knight, he has a huge, big great sword in one hand, and then a smaller sword in the other hand. Right?
Yeah.
So there is a specific series of moves that he does when he has his smaller sword, and he goes swing, 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 and then he takes his great sword and swings it once, right? So you'll notice this swing, swing, swing are all in time, right?
Yeah.
So you dodge, 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 right? But then with the great sword, since it's heavier, it takes him longer to pick it up and swing it. So it's like swing, swing, swing,
2 or 3 seconds.
Swing, right? So you go, when you're dodging, you go dodge, 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 dodge.
Yeah.
Right? It's Parappa the Rapper, right? That's what I'm saying, right?
Punch, kick.
Punch, yeah, kick, punch. It's all in the mind.
Kick, punch, it's all in the mind. If you wanna test me, I'm sure you'll find the things I'll teach ya. Sure to beat ya. Nevertheless, you'll get a lesson from teacher. Now kick, punch.
But this boss is so ruthless and the timing is so difficult that every time I mashed that dodge button too quickly the 4th time, I went dodge, 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 dodge. But I should have went dodge, 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 dodge. And just dodging that little bit too early.
Got the 5th beat.
Yeah, that dodging that 4th time that little bit too early, it meant my guy would be standing up going, yes, I just dodged a thing. What's that huge impending shadow? The number of freaking times I did it. And it's great because I say it plays with the tropes, right? Because it's, when you dodge, you get the quote-unquote invincibility frames. You know, like you're sort of invincible for like a handful of frames. So if you time your dodge correctly, you'll avoid the damage. So it plays with that because it's like, well, if people keep dodging all the attacks, how about we mess up the timing with this boss? So it's kind of frustrating. But as I say, it's not just arbitrary. He's got the smaller sword and then the big sword, so it takes him longer. It's like, you can see it, it makes sense, it's thematical, it all makes sense, and it's just my freaking fault that I kept freaking dying all the time.
Not gonna argue that.
But that said, when I beat that boss, like, that was a proper put down the controller and just stare at the screen, just be like take a moment to breathe.
That's it for today. Good job, Parappa. You can go on to the next stage now.
Yahoo! All right.
If there was any time for teabagging, it's been
So that there is gestures you can do in Dark Souls to communicate with other players.
Smell it.
You can wave, you can praise the sun, you can shake your head like this. There is no teabag animation, I'm afraid.
I want a button where I can drape my balls across its lips. That's how we do it, son.
That's the next DLC, and you can teabag a dragon if you want, mate. I'll leave that to you.
That is a risky strategy.
Yeah,
but imagine the story you come back with.
But I'm
don't call me Fire Pubes for nothing.
Oh God, that's a good wrestling name. Fire Pubes in the atomic.
For the record as well, I've actually got brown hair. I'm nowhere near ginger, but I just.
So I will close my Dark Souls 2 story, as it were, by saying that when I've beat that boss, my girlfriend was sitting reading a book on the sofa next to me, and she says that my breathing completely changed through the whole boss fight. Like I was like. Like I'd gone into complete ninja trance while doing it, and she said she wanted to point it out to me, but she was like, "I can't tell him in the middle of this because
he will kill me."
like it'll completely like she knew I would just die instantly because I was in such a trance.
He's in a trance, a jazz trance. Every day he does this. It's a pretty delicate procedure getting him out. Don't do that ever.
Why? And then like when you beat a boss, it says like you are victorious in huge big. Like gold letters on the screen, and she was just like, "Yay! By the way, you went really weird there." So, like, what other game out there can change the way you breathe, with apart from maybe Wii Sport, I suppose. but if you see what I'm like, it's so tense and like I literally changed how I breathe. Like that's can't get much higher compliments than that. So. Dark Souls 2, kind of DLC magic. Really enjoyed it. Don't play it on New Game Plus, though. It basically doesn't want to be played on New Game Plus. You're just like, yeah, I'll just jump into this again, play some New Game Plus, and like, oh, look at the first enemy. Oh, look how cute and fluffy he is. You're dead. God damn it, Dark Souls.
It actually reminds me, so when I was playing Far Cry 4, you can go and hunt explicitly rare animals.
Uh-huh.
And one of the most annoying animals in Far Cry 4, again, going into the spoilers for our future episode, is the honey badger.
Which, is that the crazy violent thing?
Yeah, exactly. And they're really small, they appear out of nowhere, and they will fuck your shit up. And then one of the missions I had was to go and hunt this extremely rare honey badger. I said, do you want to accept this mission? Yes. And then another text box said, are you sure? Yes. You're kidding me, right? No. All right, fine. Have you really got a death wish? Yes. Legitimate boxes which popped up when I was trying to accept the mission.
That's pretty good.
I've just imagined, I've won that for DLC Plus game.
It'd be great if it was just...
Really? Are you sure about this?
It'd be great if it just linked straight to like a YouTube video of like, you know what a honey badger is, right? It's one of these things.
Honey badger don't care.
Honey badger don't care. Awesome. Anyway, Gavin, speaking of honey badgers, I'm going to make you segue that into your next game.
I can't segue it. So let's move on anyway and pretend that never happened. Okay, so number 2 on my list. One of my favourite games of the year, oddly enough, but probably one of my favourite games of the last 10 years as well.
Okay.
Number 2 for me this year is The Walking Dead Season 2.
Cue sad music.
Yeah. Cue, oh my god, I'm about to burst into feckin' tears.
Yeah, aka Emotion Simulator.
Spoiler alert, at 2 points during this game, I did legitimately cry.
How many times are you going to cry in this podcast?
None. Because, you know,
I
can't show weakness amongst you two bastards, otherwise you'll just launch on me.
Edit in tears. Well, I'm just taking that as a challenge. Can I get Gav to cry? I think I can.
You could do some Foley work. Just cry on the microphone.
Oh, for crying out loud. This is why I hate hanging around with you two.
Well, if you want to get happy again, just go play Walking Dead. Oh, no.
No. Right, so Walking Dead Season 2. First thing I should point out, before you even think about playing Walking Dead Season 2, is play the first one first.
Yeah, because the story carries over.
Because it's like Mass Effect and a couple of other games which have been coming out recently. Your decisions that you made in the first season of The Walking Dead will directly affect what happens in the second season.
Yeah.
You can just pick up from the second season and continue onwards. And what the game will do is the game will automatically make
make the choices for you. Yeah. But I guess that doesn't even, at that point, you don't even have the context of what that means, I suppose.
Exactly. So I would always recommend like playing the first game first, make the decisions yourself, because then you get a more rounded experience that way.
Yeah.
So always be sure to play the first season, play as Lee for the entire of the first season, and it's absolutely fantastic game. Really, really is fantastic. The second game, you don't play as Lee, you play as Clementine, who is the little girl that Lee is trying to help get back to her mum and dad in the first
and she gets all story arc till she gets prepared to take on the zombie apocalypse herself.
Exactly.
Like she gets her hair cut to make her less grabbable. She learns to use her gun. She gets brave. I miss Clementine.
You play as Clementine, arguably one of the most likable characters in video game history.
She's pretty awesome.
She is just the most fantastic little 7-year-old girl who is just so happy and is thrown into this horrible situation, but is unbelievably brave at parts. And I mean,
I
actually had a great tutor in Lee on how to survive. In the second game, for reasons I will not explain.
Because I just bought The Walking Dead Season 2 and haven't played it yet, so don't be all like,
no.
The best bit was when it all turns out it was the Matrix.
what I was going to say is, for reasons I won't explain, Lee is not in the second season.
Yeah, he is,
absent. We won't say why he's absent because we want you to play the first season first of all.
Also because it'll make Gavin cry.
Again, I'm not saying anything.
He got a job at the DMV and couldn't get the holiday time off.
You need to play the first season. However, every single time you load up a new episode of The Walking Dead, you have the voice actor who played Lee saying previously on The Walking Dead, and it's still very kind of, oh, it's Lee. Hey,
he's got a great voice. That guy's in an episode of Archer.
Really?
Yeah, I recognise his voice right off. The one when they're on the train.
So he is.
Yeah. I was like, let's freaking leave The Walking Dead. Yes.
So you're playing as Clementine this time, and really the sense of being very, very alone is more prominent than ever. In the last episode, we talked about awesome female video game characters.
And we forgot to mention Clementine, didn't we?
Well, we didn't mention it. I should have mentioned it. Clementine is... screw it. I'm going to say it. Clementine's better than Samus.
Yeah, because Samus isn't really a character.
Exactly.
Samus is a...
So whoever is a
Squid
Tiberius Widget, I believe it was Squid Tiberius Widget who asked that question.
Squid Tiberius Widget.
That name still name. That name just will never leave me. Right, there's my official answer to you. Yes, there is. It's Clementine from the Walking Dead games.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. You get this feeling that because you are by yourself here, everything is like ramped up to 10. Because when you're playing as Lee, you're a fully grown adult male.
And you've obviously had you've been to school where they teach you exclusively zombie survival skills.
Exactly. So you're an adult. There's that feeling of because you are an adult, you're able to handle yourself more. Here you are a young girl left out in the woods alone, and there's nothing more terrifying than that. Absolutely nothing more terrifying than that. But you have the opportunity throughout the entirety of the game, and this ain't a spoiler, but Clem becomes a friggin' badass.
Just because of machine gun in both hands.
The fact that, again, she spends a lot of the game around some adults and things like that, and the fact that she is more sensible than the adults is quite amazing. The fact that this young girl who's I think she's like 8 or 9 in the game. This 8 or 9-year-old is making more rational decisions and more sensible decisions than the adults.
Yeah.
Who, that's amazing, and that's a great story. That's a great character arc for her. Her, realizing I'm more grown up than these people. I'm thinking more clearly. That's a fantastic.
And now get off my lawn.
Yeah, exactly. I've got to bring it up. The art style is fantastic. It's the same engine as the previous Walking Dead, but I always like that kind of that shell shaded look to it.
It's cell shaded. Shell shaded is when they've all got shell suits on.
Yeah,
it's like an 80s.
Calm down.
It's like a Jimmy Savile exercise video.
Oh, dude.
Don't you dare bring Clementine and Jimmy Savile within 80 feet of each other, or I will rip out your eyes.
No, she would have been the only person that would have freaking handled him properly. The BBC wasn't man enough or woman enough to do it. Clementine will sort Jimmy Savile out.
Yeah, exactly.
Once and for all.
But it's the same art style that you've seen in like Borderlands or The Wolves Among Us or things like that. But I still think it looks brilliant. It looks kind of comic booky, which is appropriate because obviously Walking Dead was a comic before it became the TV show and now the video game, which has spun off it.
I think it's the what would you call it in comic books? Is that joke about it in Chasing Amy? Is that the inker, the guy who does like the black around the edges?
Hey man, let me ask you something. Somebody draws something and then draw the exact same thing, like right on top of it, without going outside the original designated art. What do you call it?
I don't know, man.
Like it's got that great kind of inked look to it, where all the edges of everything are all black and bolded, and it gives you that comic
kind of pops out just like a little bit more.
And like sometimes it's a bit kind of loose, a little bit, almost like it's, I don't want to say mist, but in that kind of cool way where it's all a bit fast and loose. Yeah, it was great, a great looking game.
It absolutely looks fantastic. I mean, again, as I'm running it on my 360 and things like that. There were 1 or 2 glitches that came up every now and again. I do remember in the first episode, I'm creeping around a house trying to make sure the people downstairs don't hear me or see me. And I'm in the room. I snuck into a room just above where all the characters were. And then all of a sudden, one of the characters was standing there, but he was downstairs. And I walk in the room, and there's just this character stood there, and I'm like, "Oh crap, I'm busted! Oh no, oh no, no, no!" And then I kind of go, "Hang on, why is nothing happening? Why are you doing nothing? Oh, this is a glitch. Okay." You kind of have to accept with some of the Walking Dead games, you will come across 1 or 2 glitches, as Mark found out to his chagrin with the first one in his
friggin' save games. Good lord!
He's now annoyed as well at the fact that I told him, no, you're gonna have to play the first game again before you can even get the second game, which is annoying because I've been badgering you to play the second game ever since you
got it,
since I got it, because I needed to talk about it to someone. It was absolutely fantastic. Which oddly enough leads me on to the story. Oh my god, that story is fucking heartbreaking. It is. You get to see the evolution of Clem, which is fantastic. You get to see her become this person who, Christ, I don't plan on ever having a child, but if I had a child, if it was like Clementine, I would be the proudest parent in the world.
Walking Dead and Clementine specifically is a conspiracy. I have a conspiracy theory. It's a counteraction for low birth rates, right? Because most children are complete maniacs and terrifying, right? So if everyone looks at Clementine and goes, "Man, Clementine's awesome. Clementine's really cool. Maybe kids aren't crazy. Maybe kids are awesome. Maybe I'll tell them to do stuff and they'll do it. Maybe they'll be sensible and by the time they're 7, make adult decisions. Maybe they'll be great." Turns out, no, they won't.
I think some of your personal experiences may be bleeding in here, Mark.
The story, there are 2 specific points, and I guarantee you when you hit them as well, you will go into tears.
Because, I don't want to play it, I'm scared.
No, but you'll be, it's the tears of happiness.
Tears of joy.
tears of joy. Very, very specific. Because you talk about how, your girlfriend noticed that you're kind of breathing oddly and you were kind of really tense. Of course, I was like that again with The Walking Dead. You say, was there a game that can do the same? I would argue The Walking Dead Season 2 done it for me as well. And more so than the first one. Because again, with Lee, great character, fantastic character, but again, grown adult male. And you've only spent a finite amount of time with them. With Clementine, you don't just spend this game with her, you spent the previous game with her as well.
Yeah,
so she's got this massive character arc. And The Walking Dead, one of the things they friggin' love to do in that company is build up this fantastic character, give them this brilliant story arc, and then kill them off.
Yeah. No one is safe in that.
Absolutely no one is safe.
Yeah. And I think it's what they do so well is not only does it create the feeling that no one's safe, but it can happen at any time.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need to kind of build up to a huge plot point. Like there was episode 3 of the first series, when they're in the camper van and they kind of stop on the side of the road. I don't want to kind of say the moment that happens there, but good Lord.
Out of nowhere.
Absolutely blew my socks off. And even though I've never seen Game of Thrones, everything I hear about Game of Thrones sounds like that. Just like no one's safe, so you can't hold anyone sacred, or you just never know when it's going to happen, and that therein lies the tension.
Exactly, and again, this game brings that as well. But like I say, there are 2 points where I was genuinely like so on the edge of my seat, and then these things happened. 2 separate points during the game. I'm so on the edge of my seat, and then there was almost that moment of absolute respite and relief and happiness, even if it was just for the one singular moment that you were just like, oh, thank God. And you were just so happy in it. Inevitably, as these things do, everything turns to shit. Yep. But, for those brief moments, it is that moment of relief and clarity. Oh, thank God for that. Everything might be going to hell, but at least this one little thing has happened, and it's given me the strength to carry on.
You used the phrase earlier today, silver lining on a mushroom cloud.
Yeah. You can see the silver lining on a mushroom cloud, boy. And it's very much the same thing kind of here, is that everything might be going wrong, but you can still see one silver lining every so often. And the story just sucks you straight in. I mean, like I say, I played this on the Xbox. I went away to Egypt, obviously, in the middle of April this year, and was out there for the rest of for most of the year. I specifically took my Xbox with me because I didn't want to stop playing when the next episode came out.
Yeah.
So that when the next episode came out, bang, I was immediately on it. Mm-hmm. And, it cost me a fortune to download it.
I was going to say, yes, I can play it just after the next couple 100 megabytes download.
Yeah, exactly.
6 hours. Oh, God.
It's fantastic.
Dial-up connection. Come on. Who's answered the phone?
When you're trying to download The Walking Dead episode 5 on freaking 4G service, man, I'll tell you something, that's interesting.
That's dedication, though. It's a really strange measurable of how much you enjoyed the game.
Yeah, it is. The fact that, I took my Egypt to I took my Egypt. No, I didn't take my Egypt. I took my console.
To Xbox.
Yeah. I took my Xbox to another continent, not knowing if it would work or not, because, different frame rates, different TVs, whatever, and plugged it in. Thankfully, it worked. And
you have to tune it to channel 12.
Yeah. Well, no, there was a dedicated AV socket on there, so it was like fantastic.
Modern jazz.
Yeah, exactly. And I took it out there to be able to play this game while I was away, because I wanted to know what the next part of the story was, because the story is fantastic. The final thing I want to talk about it is the quick decisions that you have to make in the game as well.
It's a staple of the series is the panic decisions.
Exactly. And, you have to, obviously, you've only got a finite amount of time, you've got 4 options. And, you've got 3 options, and then there's always the silence button. And I like the silence button, because silence buttons always yields rather interesting results. Because sometimes the right thing to say in this situation is nothing.
Yeah. So I think those statistics they put out again.
Yeah, the statistics at the end are fantastic.
Yeah, and they kind of keep track of all the different players in the world and kind of have a look at the statistics. And apparently, throughout the course of the first series, the silence option was very rarely used for the first couple of episodes. But as they went to kind of episodes 3, 4, and 5, more and more people chose the silence option because they probably just looked at the other options and like, I don't want to say or do any of these things. These are all terrible. So it's a fantastic design decision. Did I say that correctly? A fantastic design decision to give you that option of just standing there inertly.
Yeah, and there, along with the dialogue, there are also the action buttons where you're normally given you can do one of two actions, and these always pop up at least 2 or 3 times in every episode where you're like given a straight A or B choice.
Yeah,
and every single one of those I really, really struggle with, apart from the very, very last one, the very final A or B choice, because I was so definite about my answer for that one. And the reason I want you to play it is because I want you to get to that point and tell me what you've done.
Yeah.
Because I want to see if you and I would think along the same kind of lines. But the very last decision, which apparently is the one that everyone kind of lingers on, I was just like, no, I know my answer for this one. This is an easy answer. The choice I had to make before this last one, the second to last choice I had to make, was the one I really struggled with. And the timer got down to like the final few pixels before I made my decision.
You know, it'd be a fascinating statistic if they have access to it. It's not necessarily just what choices people made, but how quickly, how long they take them. Yeah, because I see that's really interesting. You're just like, I absolutely know what my decision is here. But there would have been other people who were like, oh, I don't know. Yes, that's interesting. It's a fantastic psychology tool.
It really is.
like a psychology PhD just waiting to be written on this stuff about how these kind of panic decisions and every option is bad. How do you choose between 10 bad things?
Yeah, it really is. I mean, it's an absolutely fantastic game. Like I said, before you play the second season, be sure to play the first.
Yep.
Just because, again, the game's much better if you've created the world already around it, and then because your decisions really do affect what happens later on.
It's gonna be really funny if like someone started with season 2 and then like Clementine's sitting there going, I can't believe Jeff died, and then someone next to her is like,
who the hell's Jeff?
Who the fuck's Jeff? So it's all about decision and consequence, and it's like if it's called season 2, it's not called Walking Dead 2, right? So it's called season 2. You don't start watching, I don't know,
Game of Thrones at season 3.
For some reason, all I could think of was NCIS, which I've never even seen once.
I'm fairly certain NCIS is the kind of program you could start watching at season 2.
Yeah, you could probably jump in at any point.
Every episode's exactly the same. Press A or A to make a decision.
But yeah, definitely play the first game first, and then go on and play season 2. Like I say, it's the fact that I dragged my Xbox halfway across the world to play it is, surely testament enough to that.
Yeah, you took an unreliable piece of electronic equipment
to the most unreliable place in the world.
Yeah, so that's
just so I could play a slightly unstable game. Man, I'm an idiot.
Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Zerolife podcast, which come back from its break to complete with pointless stories about nothing. We are now at our top games each. Sound effect. And we're going to start off with the man with the best Christmas jumper, who is also the man whose turn it is. Liz's Christmas jumper lights up on, I was going to say on the nipples, but we're probably 3 nipples because there's one in the middle also. How many nipples do you have, Liz?
There's 4, apparently.
4 nipples.
1, 2, 3, 4. 4 nipples. Lewis, what is your game number 1?
Yeah, this year I'm going for a fairly unsurprising choice. It's going to be Fallout New Vegas. Not really. It's the New Kingdom Rush game, which is less surprising.
So, is this Kingdom Rush Frontiers? No.
Origins.
Origins.
That came out Earlier this month, I think. Yeah.
Why? Why is there why is it in need of an origin story? It's a tower defense game.
It's a tower defense game with a really interesting backstory, motherfucker.
But well, what is the backstory? Right, because we've talked about Kingdom Rush to goddamn death on this podcast. So if we're going to talk about Kingdom Rush Origins, we're going to be talking about the backstory. So I hope you've got your lore face on.
I'm not sure what that means. Sounds dirty.
Sounds kinky.
Yeah. So Lewis, Kingdom Rush Origins. What's the crack?
It's a prequel.
Great.
Yeah. No, the story of Kingdom Rush Origins is that it's actually a really interesting story because whereas the first two Kingdom Rush games are kind of what you call modern fantasy, there's fantastical elements and not modern fantasy, some more fantasy elements overplayed into a sort of vaguely historical background.
Uh-huh.
This is Kingdom Rush Origins is pure high fantasy Tolkien loveliness. Well, I'm not a big fan of Tolkien, but you know, I think you understand where I'm coming from here.
So like it's fantasy. It's like if Robin Hood was reading to his kids about fantasy stuff.
Let's assume that's a useful metaphor and see.
No,
just go along with it.
Because my memory of Kingdom Rush is I played quite a lot of Kingdom Rush, but I remember little dudes in trees who like kind of like making Robin Hood quotes and like shooting arrows and stuff. So I was thinking if that's like what we would call fantasy, is like high fantasy, what Robin Hood would read to his kids. You're still so unconvinced.
Yeah, I'm letting the stylist speak for myself. It's more like Lord of the Rings now. There's elves.
Ah.
Yes,
okay.
You are in this game. You're playing a hidden elvish village who are forced from their lands by an invasion of evil gnolls.
Okay.
Not gnolls being sort of weird goblin-y things.
Yeah. I thought they were more like dogs, gnolls.
Sort of hyena.
Oh no, is that which one's a kobold?
I don't know. I
don't know.
You're the one who plays Magic the Gathering, but yes. And as you're forced in your village, you have to go on the run, and then it turns out that it's actually this is part of a conspiracy by the evil spider god to take over the universe. Basically, you have to prevent that from happening. And as you do that, you run into some of the characters from the later Kingdom Rush games who, and in the younger forms, and you recruit them as part of the adventure.
Cool. Is there a non-evil spider queen?
No. Spiders are always bad in this game, apparently.
Mm.
So it's like very arachnophobic in the bad way.
So there could be people outside the office of the makers of this game just be like with placards saying that spiders are not always the enemy.
Hashtag
8 legs
not all
is 8
spiders.
friends.
8 legs is more legs to cuddle you with.
Why does it always have to be a web of sorrows?
Stop it with your web of lies. Yes, there it is.
Hey.
That's the slogan.
Oh dear.
Pretty good.
And they've carried on the tradition of increasing the learning curve, increasing the difficulty curve from game to game. So again, the first few levels are still very much introductory. If you've never played a Kingdom Rush game before, here's how it works.
Yeah.
But once again, once you get out the sort of demo levels, the steepness is definitely higher. There's more stuff going on. There's lots more environmental things you have to try and keep an eye on as well as just the enemies and your towers. I just make sure.
All right, so it's like interactive environment stuff.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Can you give us some examples?
There's quite a few levels where there's sort of magic flowers in the background that slowly charge up, and then if you wait till they're fully charged, you can then release them to at the enemies as they pass. It gives you a slight boost in your attacks.
Okay.
So yes, I think it's just managing when these happen to hit them at the right moment. There's also a mini game where you have to save dwarves from being thrown off from flying off a waterfall in barrels.
Wait, did they not want to do that? So why would they be in the barrel in the first place?
Maybe they just got confused.
Maybe they. What's that scene in The Hobbit where they all get in the barrels?
That must be what it's referencing, because I've not seen the Hobbit films, because I'm still upset about Return of the King's 15,000 endings.
It did have quite a few endings, that movie, didn't it?
Yeah.
And why didn't the Eagles just,
get there earlier?
Yeah, just solve the problem entirely.
Can we get a lift, mate?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know what Eagle's got jazz to do, man.
It's not about the destination, it's all about the journey.
I think we found a sore spot in Gav. Let's poke it some more.
So yeah, next time Gav wants to live somewhere, I'll be like, nope, it's all about the journey, Gav.
think of all the experiences you have walking all through all the junkie dens.
Yeah, you can walk back to Alba. Why do you need a train?
Give me a jaunty tune and I'll be fine.
The adventure line.
Yes.
This week on Crime Watch, this man found in a ditch while listening to the Stanley Parable Adventure line on loop in his headphones. And a voice was heard to say, "You could have just taken the train, Gavin."
Fucking hell.
Oh dear. But yeah, it's once again of they've taken a perfect game and they've tweaked it to make it even more perfect, and I love them, and I want to give them all a big hug.
So it's a kind of weird backwards question. If they're kind of tweaking them and adding new mechanics here and there and stuff, have you gone back and played the original one, and does it feel kind of empty by comparison?
I've not for a while, actually. I really should. I'm gonna give it another go.
Oh no! What if I've ruined Kingdom Rush for you? You go back and play it, and you're like, "Well, it's rubbish."
You know if that happens because there'll be a knock at your door in a few days' time. Like, who could that be? And you open it up, and I'll just come flying in, and punching you, and never stop.
It's all about
Open
this
the door,
journey,
you smack him in the face with your iPad. Bitch!
I'm going to defend my tower against your face.
So that'll be a report for a future episode. But I don't think it will, because Kingdom Rush. So
do no wrong.
I know your contribution to the episode. We should have like a sting for the Fallout and Kingdom Rush update of the week. Still all right.
Still good.
My sources tell me, yeah, it's all right.
That's pretty good. Yeah. So you're playing it on iPad, yeah?
Yep. This game's only been released to mobiles. The first two games were also available on PC, but this one's mobile exclusive.
Right. Okay.
Huh.
Yeah. Because they have to use different coding between the different versions. They couldn't be arsed anymore.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say as well. Do you think it's more a fact of they've just realised that that's where the money is more in the mobile market for this game rather than sitting down at a PC or a laptop to do it? People want this more on the go than they would actually just kind of sit down and. Obviously, Lewis here, the second we stop recording this, is probably going to put it straight back up and start playing again. But I think. Do you think that's probably why they've made this mobile exclusive rather than release it on PCs as well? Is that factor as well?
Yeah, I think that's probably an important factor as well. If you're going to spend all that time basically recoding your game a second time to make it exactly the same, you want to have a return on that, which.
There's a joke in there about Kingdom Rush in general, right? High five to myself. Bam!
Yeah, just for the record, Mark actually high-fived himself, even though no one could ever see it apart from me and Gavin.
No, the world saw it and it cried a little bit inside.
Yeah.
So that's the true ending of the third Lord of the Rings film, which is me self-fiving.
Sounds like a weird masturbation trope.
It's my personal life, Gavin.
Oh, so good game.
So yes, very good game.
Yeah.
It's only a couple of quid. Go and get it, and they've already added the endless mode, so it is literally infinite enjoyment for you and all your friends.
Wait, I can get infinite enjoyment. I have to pay £3 for it. Screw that. I'm going to spend 40 hours figuring out how to pirate it. And 20 hours spent modding it and then never play the goddamn thing. Well, it was interesting you said about the mobile kind of side of it, because I played the original Kingdom Rush on my tablet thing on the bus to my old job quite a lot.
Yeah.
And I actually really disliked it as a travel game because you're totally in a flow, right? That if you then have to get off the bus, you either have to just kind of quit out your game or leave it on standby and kill your battery for ages. And even if you then get back up, you lose whatever flow you were in. You're in a total headspace with it. So do you play it more at home or are you
travel? The idea of trying to play it Kingdom Rush on the bus is ridiculous, and the fact you even did it is kind of sacrilegious and heretical.
Well, I think that's what was kind of perplexed me about they're not doing the PC version anymore. It's like I don't think it's a good travel game.
It's
So,
not
like
good. No, it's not a good travel game, but I do think that the touch screen controls do work better for getting you into a flow more than the clicking the mouse and way that the PC version worked on. It's sort of instantaneousness. Adds to the immersion that you're frantically tapping at the part of the screen you need to do something has to happen on to make it work.
Yeah.
But but basically you do it by yourself in a locked house with no other distractions.
Locked house. It's like I'm gonna lock the door because it's Kingdom Rush time.
Oh yeah.
It's Kingdom Rush.
It's Kingdom Rush time. Come on, everybody! It's Kingdom Rush time.
So yeah, it's a great game. I love it. I love it so much. Mark, so what's your inferior number one game of the year?
Oh, shots fired.
Shots fired. Yeah, you're definitely the heel of the podcast. Yes, so like Gavin said earlier, this has been not the easiest year for choosing best games. For whatever reason, a lot of the games I played were either pretty okay or they didn't really sit well with me and I couldn't really get into a lot of things. And there was only one game I played all year that I just knew straight away was going to be on my list. I didn't know it was going to be at the top of my list, but I knew it was going to be in one of my best games of the year, and that was Rogue Legacy. Did either of you bother your arses to play Rogue Legacy?
Actually, no.
Nah.
No.
Nah. Handy note piece of paper tells me that Rogue Legacy was made by Cellar Door. Thank you, piece of paper.
As you were saying beforehand, I said, oh no, I'll probably just remember them. Thank feck I wrote that down for you.
Yeah. So that piece of paper is like my Debbie McGee. You know, I need my sidekick to help me remember the names and stuff.
Are you implying you take it home and have sex with it?
Let the silence speak for itself.
Well, because I've forgotten his name. That stupid, annoying magician.
Paul Daniels.
Yeah, Paul Daniels is married to Debbie McGee, so I assume they had sex.
I don't know. We'd have to ask them.
Didn't Louis Theroux do that on his TV show? We should go watch that and find out.
Hey, you've been married for years. Did you ever...
Paul Daniels was like, I can't give away my secrets.
Otherwise you lose the magic.
My brother went to see Paul Daniels fairly recently and said it was legitimately amazing. He said it was like super funny, like stand-up funny good. So who knows, maybe Paul Daniels is the boss.
Maybe.
Anyway, we're not talking about Paul Daniels, we're talking about Rogue
He
Legacy.
is the boss of the Kingdom Rush endless mode. It does have an ending. Just like
after 10,000 waves, you get to fight Paul Daniels.
You fight Paul Daniels on a huge map of Paul Daniels' face. But what are we talking about?
Rogue Legacy.
Rogue Legacy. Yes, so Rogue Legacy is the 2D kind of hack and slashy platformy game that has permadeath. And the main gimmick of it is every time you die, you take on the genes and the lineage of of basically your siblings. Or no, it wouldn't be your siblings, your child. What's the generic term for that?
Child.
What's that? I feel like there's a word I'm trying to think of.
Are you thinking of children?
Offspring. There we go. Of your offspring. Thank you. I don't always think of children, but thanks, Lewis.
Sometimes it's worth checking with you. 1 spoon, 2 spoons. Well done, Mark.
1 fish, 2 fishes.
I love how there was actually a genuine sense of that. I'm not 100% sure where I'm going with this.
Fishes is my favourite not word. Because not only is it great because people get annoyed when you say it because it's not actually the word, it just sounds awesome to say fishes. Good. What are you going to have for dinner? Going to have fishes.
Wait. Fishes isn't a word?
No, it should be. Well, no, it shouldn't be. Because as soon as it is, it won't be cool anymore. It's like a really hipster word.
Okay,
Luke has broken out the dictionary which his microphone was sitting on and is now looking this up.
He's gone into quiet research mode.
This is the point where he tells more about the game while he fact checks.
No, I'm fascinated by this.
I should just point out I did manage to open the dictionary at the page that starts with Flibberty Gibbet, so I'm quite impressed with myself there. Here we go.
I'm quite impressed that is actually a word.
Yeah. Anyway, so while Lewis does that, yeah, Rogue Legacy, hack and slashy 2D fun. A very simple game in terms of its mechanics. So you can jump, you can slash your sword, you can do a kind of down stabby thing, and you can roll, and that's pretty much it. Like it's not very mechanics heavy. When I say you slash your sword, there's literally one single animation of you going, huh! Like there's no fancy combos, nothing like that. You only ever get a sword. There's no crazy schmanciness. It is very simple, but in its simplicity lies its beauty.
Much like you.
That's a really backhanded compliment, isn't it?
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Fact check update time.
Go.
Fishes is a real word.
Yes! There you go.
It's an acceptable plural for fish.
Oh, no, it's boring now.
I was confused as why you're so excited about the word fishes. It's like...
Gutted.
The more we learn.
Gutted.
Oh, God. For that pun, I sentenced you to go stand in a fish market and sniff the atrocious smell for a month.
You mean a fish's market?
You're not funny.
Constructive criticism, always welcome, Liz. Thank you for that.
Oh, constructive criticism.
I'm going to look that one up in the dictionary. What the hell are you talking about?
Constructive criticism. Could we be? I don't understand the question, and I won't respond to it.
I've heard of the term mental abuse. Is that the same thing? Yes, so Rogue Legacy, very simple, very mechanically very simple. And it's one of those games that death, once again, is a mechanic. Every time you die, you have to try and figure out why you died. And every one of your enemies has a very distinct tell for each of its attacks. What's really funny is the first time you ever play the game, you go, yes, I'm a little dude or a little lady with a sword, and I'm going to go walk into the castle, and like, ha, there's enemies over there. Then you probably hit your X button to swing, and then you die. And you go, what the smeg just happened? And then, because it's cool because you think that everything just insta-kills you. Like, you die so quickly at the beginning that you can't even begin to puzzle out what the hell just happened. But then you realize each enemy only has one attack, and it has a very distinct tell and a very distinct timing for how that attack then plays out. Right. And you get to this point that you just become a total savant with it, and you walk into a room with like 6 enemies, and you just like they're all shooting things at you and throwing fireballs, and it's like a bullet hell thing. So anyone else looking over your shoulder would be like, "This looks terrifying," but you with all your practice and skill, just like close your eyes, go. And then everything dies. It's so satisfying.
Remember, there is no spoon.
There is no spoon. There's only spoons. It's super satisfying, and there's kind of upgrade mechanics as well. Like you can find equipment as you go. You can buy equipment with gold. Every time you die, you go back to a village, and you can spend your money to kind of level up your character, do all sorts of fun stuff. Yeah, you can get unlock different classes like paladins and lich kings and a friggin' dragon. You can be a dragon and sort of fly, even though it's a terrible way to play the game, but you can be a dragon, so that's cool. But so the main gimmick is that each playthrough, you are one of your offspring, and they have strange character traits.
Wait. Every playthrough, you're one of your offspring, and you can become a dragon. Your family is fucked up, man.
there's literally a joke in it somewhere, right? I think when you die, you get the choice of 3 sets of different character traits. Like this, you get a choice between a barbarian, a paladin, and a mage, and they all have different character traits. Later on, you can unlock an upgrade that allows you to re-roll those, so you get 3 more. And it literally says something along the lines of, "Don't ask us how this works." So it's quite self-aware in its silliness. It's a very good-natured game. It's hard to stay mad at when a game has little bit of charm to it. Yeah, so the gimmicks are weird stuff like your character can only see in monochrome, so everything might be black and white. You can have vertigo, which means they stand on the ceiling and run upside down on everything. You can be a dwarf and be tiny. You can get gigantism. You can have irritable bowel syndrome. You can have, I can never remember the word, it's like corporophilia. Corporophilia is when you swear constantly when you get hit with stuff. Yeah, so it's just filled with...
Like us in real life, essentially.
Yeah, basically.
Well, we don't need to be hit by anything to just swear. We just...
I'm going to test that.
Wanker.
Oh, no, I can do that every time.
Prick. Slut. Your mother.
Hey, man.
That's really
You pressed the button.
It's the swear button. Yeah, so it's just filled with charm, and it's really good fun, and mechanically really sound. As I say, a game where difficulty is going to be really high, mechanics need to be flawless. Otherwise, it will just dissolve into frustration. But here, the mechanics are solid enough and consistent enough that you can do really awesome things and kill things and get better. So you never feel very frustrated. It is worth noting the later stages of the game where there's an area where everything's dark is crazy, crazy difficult, and I may or may not have kind of just legged it through each time. It's way easier than trying to fight all the enemies, but who knows, maybe that's a valid tactic.
Yeah.
Because, I don't know, if I saw lots of deadly skeletons in the night, I'd probably leg it too, so I'm role-playing as myself. Yeah, just it's an incredible amount of fun. So I played through it twice from start to finish. I actually died more on the second playthrough than the first one, which is kind of weird. But it's because I was trying to get all the unlocks for all the armor and equipment and all this. At least that's my lame excuse, my terrible excuse. So I had an absolutely brilliant time with it. It's one of those games that it's hard to think of any useful or meaningful way to improve it. So most of the other games I played this year, even the ones I enjoyed, I had some caveats about them. Like, for example, Brother is a Tale of Two Sons is great, but once you know the story, the impact's going to be gone.
Yeah.
Papers, Please is really cool, but it sort of relies on you failing and then starting again from scratch with knowledge to really complete it. Dark Souls 2 is kind of cool, but sort of lacks atmosphere, and some of the level design's not great. Almost every game I played this year I had some caveats about. But Rogue Legacy, I just absolutely adored top to bottom. Just it's a simple game executed to perfection. And it's one of the challenges of big AAA game design is as games get more and more complicated, there are more things that can go wrong with it, be on a technical side or thematically or tonally. There's all these different things that once you have too many cogs, man, got too many cogs, they're not all going to be as shiny as the other cogs. I don't know where that metaphor was going. I'm going to stand by it.
Stand by your shit.
Stand by your shit. Yeah, so it's just simple mechanics just done to perfection. And the last few years, I've been moving more towards story-focused games.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, it's not for whatever reason. Spec Ops: The Line Syndrome. I can't play normal games anymore.
Yeah.
Because that Spec Ops: The Line has broken them all for me and shown me just how arbitrary and how nonsense they all are. Which is why BioShock Infinite was just an absolute howling turd in my eyes.
Howling turd in my eyes.
Because Spec Ops: The Line showed it up for what it was. So I play more things like The Walking Dead and Dear Esther, and I've just bought Valiant Hearts and Vanishing of Ethan Carter and all these much more story experience focused games, things like Gone Home as well.
Yeah.
I'm moving way more towards those. So I was really surprised just how much I enjoyed Rogue Legacy, because it is a game-ass game for people who play games. Like it is. I say it's that retro feel, but in a modern design elements.
Right,
to
okay,
it.
yeah, I get
And
where
it's
you're
just
coming
freaking brilliant, top to bottom. No justification either of you could possibly give me for not playing it whatsoever.
I have to work for a living, motherfucker.
Okay, that's a pretty good excuse.
I just like annoying you.
Yeah. I can totally understand why neither of you want to play Dark Souls. I totally get it. There's nothing you could say that would make me understand why you wouldn't want to play Rogue Legacy. It's that good. As soon as I played it, I was like, yeah, this is going to be on my Game of the Year list. It's just that good. Loved it.
I do things to spite myself just so I can annoy you.
It's like one day you're going to be like, I'm not going to have oxygen just because you say it's good.
Yeah, exactly. Carbon monoxide all the way, baby.
Yeah, so easiest decision I made all year, Rogue Legacy #1 on my list.
Yeah.
Gavin, take it away.
Well, again, my decision for #1 was actually really, really easy for me as well. I started off, I talked about how in Walking Dead Season 2, I took my Xbox to another continent to be able to play that. And people must think, well, surely, how can that not be #1 if you've done that? The game that ended up as #1.
I killed a man for.
No. In between the times waiting for the next episode, this is what I played constantly.
Okay.
For #1 for me, and it's an obvious choice, but sometimes the obvious choice is the right one. #1 for me this year is GTA 5.
Why did I move here? I guess it was the weather. Or the... I don't know, that thing. That magic. You see it in the movies. I wanted to retire from what I was doing, From that line of work. Be a good guy for once. A family man. So, I bought a big house. Came here, put my feet up, and thought I'd be a dad like all the other dads. My kids would be like the kids on TV. We'd play ball and sit in the sun, but, well, you know how it is.
So this came out last year, which I discovered earlier today.
Yeah.
It didn't come out this year.
Yeah.
So I thought you were totally on the ball, being like, cool, we've got like new games on our list. How cool is that? Then I realised...
Hey, Countdown Rush Origins came out this month, and you're giving him praise for buying a year-old game.
You're the only person with all your lists new games, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because I was like, Rogue Legacy, that's new. Oh, crap, that came out last year. Oh, crap.
We're not on the ball as we thought. Shit.
No. Because I was like, yes, GTA 5, that'll bring us up the modern side. And then I was like, oh, crap, that came out last year.
No, well, Walking Dead Season 2 came out this year.
Came out this year.
So there we go. GTA 5 ended up... I played at the very start of the year, and it's maintained its #1 status for me throughout the entire year, which I think is a great staple, because I played it in January of this year, and I just kept powering through it. I've actually just been back and completed it a second time, fully.
From scratch?
From story mode from scratch. And one of the interesting things, and one of the reasons I love the game, and it's ended up as on my #1 list, is there was a very brave decision by Rockstar to have 3 main characters. And not only to have 3 main characters, to make each character as individual and interesting as the next character. And so actually, going back, I actually took on what we said from our last podcast, where Lewis was talking about he'd done a playthrough of New Vegas from the sightline of a
homicidal
lunatic
maniac,
who would just go around and destroy everyone. So I played each character how I imagined that they would live in the real world. So when I was playing as Franklin, if I was, let's say I'm driving somewhere, okay, so if I'm playing as Franklin, I'm going incredibly fast. The video was always set to the West Coast Classic Hip Hop channel, which is like Snoop, Dre, Tupac, all that kind of stuff. He's just zooming through traffic. If he hits something, doesn't matter. He just keeps going.
He's the getaway driver, guys.
He is the getaway driver. He's the punk kid who kind of grew up in the ghetto and is trying to aspire to be something more. If I'm playing as Michael, who's the burnt out bank robber, he's quite a bit older. He's in his he's in his 40s, so he's listening to a lot of the classic rock stations. So it's things like Simple Minds. It's things like Elton John and what else? Oh, I'll tell you about the other one in a wee bit, because it's one of the reasons, again, that was just awesome. And if I'm playing as Trevor, who's the homicidal maniac, but going back to what I was saying about Michael, if Michael's driving somewhere, he's taking it nice and slow and it's just allegedly drive, but if someone bangs into the back of him, he's out the car, yanking them out and beating them up.
Yeah.
Because that's what he would do. And then if I'm playing as Trevor and I'm driving somewhere, the radio is always set to the Channel X channel, which is all the stuff like The Germs and all the really aggressive punk rock and things like that. And Trevor's not on the road. He's just driving down the street on the pavement and laughing as he runs over everyone. That's how I played each character.
I would think you'd probably listen to hello, darkness, my old friend, just on loop. Or just like a Nine Inch Nails remix of that.
Yeah, something like that. But it's like that's how I played each character this time, and it was a much more interesting way to play each character. And I've got to thank Lewis for actually giving me the idea to do that, because before I was just playing each character like it was a character.
It's okay. I'm just your average everyday superhero.
Hey, you're not the superhero this podcast needs. The superhero this podcast deserves.
No, we don't even deserve this amount of bullshit.
Is it like that? Is it? That's
yes, it is.
I'm just going to the pub.
That'd be great. Be like, yeah. Is that what you want to say? You want to say that to my face? Fine. Well, I'm going to go home. All right. Okay. Cheers.
So yeah, to have three main characters in there who are utterly fantastic and individual and allow you to play the game different ways with each character is brilliant. The graphics I'm playing it on 360. I've not played the updated version for the One or the PS4. But even then, for the 360, my God, they've got everything they possibly could.
It looks amazing.
It looks stunning. It looked like it belonged on the next gen, and then you actually saw what they were capable of doing with the next gen.
They really stepped up again, did they?
Yeah, it was absolutely fantastic. The fact that they push the Xbox graphics card or the PS3 graphics card as far as it will go.
I think it's the depth and
it's the
scale.
It takes forever to load.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the scale of everything that you can see. Like when you're up on a mountain, or you're even just looking out towards mountains, it just looks massive in a way that generation of consoles just generally really struggles with.
Yeah. I mean, it's the fact that you can explore the entire map straight away without any issue.
I think that's a good decision. I always hated the arbitrary chopping off of areas.
Yeah.
So it's good. They're just like, here's the world.
Here's the world. Go for it.
Go find that shed that everyone talked about on Reddit before the game was released.
And it was just a shed.
It was just a shed.
So it looks absolutely stunning. It's very, very visually appealing to you. When you compare it to GTA 4, same platform, what a difference.
Yeah.
So GTA 4 now look like their faces are made of melted candle wax.
Even just stylistically, GTA 5 looks much brighter, much more colourful, more vibrant. Where GT4 looked quite dark and dingy and grubby, which is sort of the aesthetic it was going for. But GT5 does. It looks cool, both technically and artistically, I suppose.
And that's because it is.
Yeah.
I've got to talk about it as well, because it's always one of the biggest hang-ups in the GTA series. The handling of vehicles is spot on in this game.
It's just arcadey enough, but not ridiculous.
It's they found this sweet line between Gran Turismo and
GTA.
GTA. they found that sweet line just between where it's easily manageable, but it's not too overly complex. Driving places is actually fun. You actually enjoy doing it. The addition of the heists as well into the gameplay. The heists are fantastic. They're just about to introduce them to the multiplayer. We're not going to talk about the multiplayer here, but I can sum up the multiplayer right now in 2 words. It's shit.
That was you changed your word choice there. You're like, I've only got 2 words.
It was a mixture of it's shit or it's broken.
Yeah.
It's both, really. But
well, the fact that they're talking about adding multiplayer heists, like
now when it was going to be at launch.
Yeah. That's pretty funny.
But actually, the trailer that came out saying, "Oh yeah, we're putting in the heists now." There's a character in the trailer called Lester who is kind of like Franklin Trevor and Michael's go-to guy, who helps set everything up for them. And in the trailer, he's saying that, "I know you've been bitching and complaining, but you weren't ready yet." And that's very much a message being sent to the gaming community. I've heard all your bitching and your moaning. You guys weren't ready yet. You needed this time.
So all they need to do is try and find a cutscene from the game that they can chop a bit out that says, "Yeah, but I fucking pre-ordered it."
But it was the heists are brilliant fun to plan. It just brings again, you've got more play style. Again, with this second playthrough that I've done of GTA 5, obviously had to do all the heists again. I'd done the exact opposite heist, because normally you're giving 2 routes of entry, the kind of the smooth and stealthy and, distract everyone and you move it the other way. And then you've got the loud and dum-dum approach.
The Serious Sam technique.
Yeah, exactly. So I went through, I often played the first one rather actually stealthily and tried to have minimal damage or whatever. This time I just went for the full kind of balls out, here we go, let's blow shit up approach.
Yeah.
Because blowing shit up, as it turns out, is awesome.
Yeah, whoever invented explosions, bravo.
Yeah. The story in the game as well is absolutely fantastic. The amount of customization that you've actually got over the story as well, the fact that you've got 3 storylines intertwining and arcing between each other is no mean feat. It is tough to do that's tough for a Hollywood writer to do.
Yeah.
To have 3 intricate storylines and have them link up seamlessly, and they're able to do it in this game where if you're playing a mission as Franklin and Trevor all of a sudden turns up, you go, oh yeah, he would be here to do this. This seems perfectly natural for him to actually come along and have an interest in what I'm doing here.
Yeah.
And they interlink it in such a way that it actually works properly. So the story is absolutely fantastic. And the final point I want to make about this, and it's going to beat every single game on your list, every single game on Lewis's list, it's going to beat every single game on my list. This final point, I got to ask you, do any of your games that you played this year, which were even on the honorary mentions list, feature either a song by or the radio presenting talents of Mr. Danger Zone himself, Kenny Loggins? Does it feature it? Does it feature any songs or have his audio talents in it?
I don't know. Knowing the sense of humour of the guys who made Dark Souls.
I believe the answer is no. GTA 5 has Kenny Loggins songs in it and has him as the radio host of the classic rock station.
Does he say Danger Zone?
He does.
Fantastic.
Unfortunately, it's not Danger Zone, the song that he plays. It's I'm Free, which is actually a better song, if I'm honest. But it's still GTA 5, man. There's not much more I can say about it. It's just...
It's got Kenny Loggins in it.
It's got Kenny Loggins in it. I ended my point last year when I put Saints Row 4 as you can play the game dressed as Roddy Piper. Here, once again, boom, motherfuckers. Drop the mic.
Don't drop the mic, it's expensive.
You know what's dangerous? Your obsession with me. Seriously, Lana, call Kenny Loggins, because you're in the danger zone. From Top Gun?
Just be careful.
No.
Let's have a final rundown of our individual top 3s. Lewis?
At 3, WWE 2K15.
Woo-woo!
At 2, Tabletop Simulator.
Wait, is that This Is Your Life?
No.
What's that one?
That was the countdown for the charts. This Was Your Life was do 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 do, and what I was doing is do 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 do.
I don't know. This is a bit of a Vanilla Ice Queen situation we've got going on here. At number 1.
Number 1, Kingdom Rush Origin.
Boo.
You suck.
Like that. We were completely occupied. Boo!
Gavin, at number 3?
At number 3 for me was The Stanley Parable. At number 2, The Walking Dead Season 2. And at number 1, GTA 5. And Mr. Mark Anderson.
At number 3, I had Jazz Punk. At number 2, I had the Dark Souls Crown DLC. And at number 1, we have the wonderful Rogue Legacy. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to move on to our final category, our wonderful honorary category, where once a year we put a game into the Zerolife Hall of Fame, which will stay forever until it maybe gets a bit rotted and gross, like all those time capsule things that kids do, and it never really works out very well, and they do on Blue Peter quite a lot. Lewis, what is this year's honorary entry into the Zerolife Hall of Fame?
NBA Jam!
NBA Jam, probably my favorite multiplayer game of all time.
Yeah, that was actually a point I was gonna say. This must be the first time we put a game into the Hall of Fame exclusively on the side of its multiplayer, because the single player for NBA Jam is atrocious.
Yeah, no, I think about it. Just like, the single player totally sucked. You had to do those like type in codes to save your progress throughout the season and stuff. Weird.
Maybe you made progress. I genuinely never got past the second. I sometimes beat the first team, would never get past the second team.
Well, you clearly weren't using the Chicago Bulls. Scottie Pippen for the win.
Yeah, Scottie Pippen's son. It's like, the Bulls were pretty OP back then. NBA Jam, probably my favorite local multiplayer game of all time. We used to have tournaments of it in our old flat. It actually got to the point where we used to stop doing slam dunks because 2 points were not good enough. It was a waste of possession if you got 2 points. It was worse than getting 0. It came to the point where it got down to choosing specific teams who were often had worse.
Utah Jazz.
Yeah, was it the Utah Jazz and something Sun? Phoenix Suns.
Yeah.
I think both had players that didn't have good 3-point shooting skills, but for some reason, if you got to a specific point on the court, could just hit 3-pointers every time. Like I don't know if it was a total glitch, like some sort of mathematical thing like calculation that always happened. But yeah, it became the 3-pointer game. And it was the most stressful fun I have ever experienced. Like, just get possession, 3 points. Change possession, 3 points. Change possession, 3 points. And like 4 quarters of overtime later, just
someone's sneakily went into the slam dunk just to throw everyone's rhythm off and won.
I was going to say the he's on fire thing, when you score 3 points or 3 baskets in a row with one player, they're heating up and all that stuff, is basically the most funny laugh in your face troll thing in a multiplayer game, right?
Yeah.
Like, so you're beating the other person and the game characters know it, the commentator knows it, everyone knows it. It rubs it in the other person's face and you don't even have to do it. But like, is it the most quotable game of all time?
It must be.
Yeah, it is. But I mean, for something which has so few voice loops in it as well, it's certainly one of the most quoted things of all time. You know, I before I'd even played NBA Jam, I knew he's on fire from downtown.
Boom shakalaka. So ridiculous. Oh, charm in droves, infinitely quotable. The slam dunks looked amazing.
Yeah.
They're just so good. And like, as your character would, if they got on fire, then they could do the crazy ones where they jump and they do like 3 forward flips and they'd slam it and the glass would shatter. Just absolutely amazing. Just visually really cool, fluid as hell. Really fast and loose with the rules of basketball.
Yeah.
Because I remember a few years after playing NBA Jam originally, when I was young, I remember playing some other basketball game. I maybe got it on like a SNES emulator or something. But it was actual 5v5 basketball with actual rules. And I was like, this is rubbish. And like, to this day, I've never really enjoyed basketball because it's not NBA Jam. So I don't know if you guys remember the failed sport attempt of Slam Ball, which was the variant of basketball that had trampolines on the court. And it had like body armor. It was like full contact as well. It was crazy. It was basically NBA Jam in real life. And it was
pretty base.
Freaking amazing health and safety nightmare. like every single game was just had career ender written all over it. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it did, but it was fucking awesome.
It was fucking amazing. It was a video game come to life. It was NBA Jam. And I've never really got into proper basketball because it's just not as good as NBA Jam made it out to be. Like, because you can freaking elbow people to get the ball off them. You can straight up shove them out the way. When you sprinted, your sneakers changed color, which is super cool. God, I absolutely adore NBA Jam. And even like the music when it kind of fades up at the beginning, like the cool like fade up bit's awesome, and there's the iguana spinning the ball and the logos at the beginning.
Well, there's a point. Is this the only good game Acclaim ever made?
Did they make Booger Man? That's not a good game, but I'm just like, what are the games they made?
But didn't Acclaim play Fallout?
No, that was
Interplay, was it?
Yeah, Interplay. Fallout was Interplay, but yeah.
Mortal Kombat. Acclaim for that.
Oh yeah.
Okay, fair enough then.
Yeah, and at halftime they had or is it half times or quarters? They had the like the GIF videos of Michael Jordan like slamming the ball, and they'd be like, all up in the camera's face.
Yeah. All up in your grill, son.
Yeah. Oh god damn it! Even like the colors on the menus, just like crazy flashing colors, that sort of neon early 90s, late 80s aesthetic that looked awful but was amazing at the same time. There's few games that when someone just says the name of it that get me as kind of riled up with excitement as NBA Jam. So I'm currently in my new flat, trying to move all my old consoles here.
Yeah.
I have a copy of NBA Jam. I just need a TV that can take an old adapter. So possibly the next time you visit, Gav, there will be some NBA Jam happening.
Nice.
And that'll be the end of the Zero Life podcast, because I can't be arsed doing it anymore. I'm too busy playing NBA Jam.
The podcast will just become the soundboard from NBA Jam.
Yeah. Yeah. Possibly my favourite sports game.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. So I'm not big on sports games or anything like that, but I love NBA Jam. You know, and I think it's because, like you said, there's not that many rules to it.
Yeah.
So it's I remember like playing like I think it was like UEFA Champions League on my PS1 with my dad.
Yeah.
And I was getting caught out by like the offside rule or whatever. And it was just like, oh, this is no fun. And we turned it off and it was much more fun. Sports games are more fun when you can turn off the rules.
Yeah, it's because they're always going to be restricted in some way. Like even the newest FIFA is nothing like actual football.
No.
Nothing like it whatsoever. So it's like, if I can hack people from behind and it doesn't even get called a free kick, then we're talking. I want to do double foot challenges.
Yeah, exactly.
Like aim for the face every time. Like there used to be, I don't know if you remember.
Kick him in the heart.
I don't know if Jesus. Carnival. I don't know if you remember Sense World of Soccer, aka SWAS.
Yes, I do.
But there was I don't know if it was, I don't want to say a mod, because the dude had it on floppy disk, so it probably wasn't a mod. It was called Bulldog Blighty. It was basically it was SWAS, except the football was a bomb that would explode every now and again and kill the players near it. So like as the game went on, you had less players because they kept getting blown up. And I was like, this is freaking awesome. Like I miss wacky sports games, and I was never a fan of the Mario stuff. It was all a bit too twee. And not
like Mario Tennis.
It's like I appreciate it for what it is, but it's not violent enough. It's like I really like NFL.
If it doesn't end with Princess Peach's decapitation, then you don't want to hear about it.
Getting sacrificed to King Donkey Kong. I really like NFL Blitz as well. Like that was like American football where you could just people like at the end of every play you could super dive into people and sometimes literally just suplex.
Mutant League Football was fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you could deliberately bribe the ref.
I like to say deliberately, as in you can sometimes indirectly and by accident bribe. I just happened to leave that gold bar in his
money
car.
has fallen on the floor. Oh well.
Next to that mortgage overdue. There's not enough wacky sports games. They're a mix of violence and silliness and joy.
Yeah, exactly.
I've just thought of the next big franchise, WWE Jam.
Okay,
it's already says it's called Fire Pro X.
Yeah, it's NBA Jam but with wrestlers. So instead of just pushing people over, you just hit them with instead of pushing the guy over and get the ball, you hit him with an RKO.
RKO out of nowhere. That would be awesome. Like, someone's like going up, they're doing the 3-4 flips in the air because they're going to dunk, and then just Randy Orton just leaps out the side of the screen. It should be like, I know that kind of that meme's a little bit kind of overplayed at this point, but I think every game should in some way or another have a button that you can press to somehow RKO something out of nowhere. It's like if I'm playing like Civilization 5 and Gandhi's just like, shall we make a trade declaration?
To be fair, I think the day the meme was dead is when it turned up in the Scottish Premier League.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah. Scottish football has a knack for killing everything.
Including its own credibility.
Yeah. Nothing is safe.
I'm not talking about Scottish football.
Yeah.
No. Queen of the South. Queen of the fucking South. We'll walk over Rangers and get beat by Cowdenbeath 1 week in a 2 week span.
This part of the podcast was edited out because Lewis talked about obscure Scottish football teams.
You really are turning into Edibot 4000 slowly but surely in front of our eyes.
He's turning into me. I was the originator.
I'm just Zero Life Season 2 Judgment Day.
Mind you, have a rocking 80s soundtrack.
Have you seen this man? Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I think we're going to wrap up today's super long extendo version of our Game of the Year show, where we embraced old games, we embraced new games, and we embraced the terrible wrestling game as well.
It's not terrible, it's just kind of average.
It's kind of meh.
It's the best compliment you can play is kind of average. Not even average, just kind of average.
It's a game that I played in the year 2014.
Exactly. That's it. It's a game I played.
Yeah, it's like objective game reviews. This is a video game. It has 12 graphics in it. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed today's super extendo version of the Zero Life podcast. Thank you very much, Lewis, for joining us all the way from Aberdeen.
That's no problem.
And thank you, Gavin, for coming all the way through from Alva.
Yeah, exactly.
To my creative space.
Prick.
I'm not sure where Alba is, but it just sounds like Gavin is wandering through a time portal from like the Roman invasion.
Like I'm fairly
basically,
sure.
you know the place where all the hobbits are from? That's Alba.
Right, I just have this image that like it's not really a place. Gav just dug a moat around his house and declared it his own.
This is my home. I've got to have the moat, otherwise the Black Knight will keep getting in.
I'm really glad you said night there.
Racist bastard.
We end this before the NSA actually turn up in our houses.
I know, Gav's from a small white bread hick town, right?
Yeah, I'm a Scottish redneck.
And anyway, thank you very much for joining us. My name is Mark, and Marky out of nowhere!
I want to deck you so hard.
You said deck, right?
Yes, I did.
Thanks for joining us in 2014, everyone. We'll be back with you soon, assuming Mark and Gavin haven't killed each other.
So or dicked each other.
Yeah. Look forward to more episodes in 2015 if we can still stand the sight of each other. And goodbye and good luck.
Good luck out there.
We're rooting for you.
That's it for today.
Hi there, and thanks for listening to this episode of the Zero Life podcast. Man, I tell you, that review of that game by those boys, spot on in my book. If you enjoyed this episode, you can subscribe to us on iTunes by searching for Zero Life. While you're doing that, maybe leave us a nice rating or review. It helps out the show and lets us know how we can make the show even better. You can also find all our episodes at zerolife.podbean.com. You can also find us on Facebook by searching for Zero Life. So be sure to like our Facebook page to see our offbeat and often hilarious observations. So until next time, dear listener, adios.